I've shared similar stories like this before, but you're actually, I think, one of the first two people that I've come across that have that I've spoken with and then been able to maintain maintain a good relationship after the fact, where I have been very fortunate to get to know someone like yourself, and then the various other people that I've come across as well too, that you happen to know, work with in some way or shape or form. And because of you, believe it or not, the various people that I have spoken with on my show since then, many of them have told me after we were done recording that, yeah, I talked to Gary and Gary put in a good word for you. And that meant a lot to me too, because, there have been conversations that I've had where, I've tried to be very cognizant of, like, as you already know, that I don't want to do the same repetitive stuff over and over again. And then sometimes I have been very lucky where I ask one question, that question just opens the floodgates for various other things that I've been able to get into with the person to, hopefully make the conversation interesting for the both of us. So with that being said, though, the props I want to give to you is that, because you have been very instrumental in the conversations I've had with various people on my show, Devaney, Jonathan, Mark, and a few others as well too. Virtually all of them have said to me that, because of Gary, we were very confident in talking with you. So I want to say thank you so much for that, because you put in a good word, and for me give me the opportunity. But at the same time, what I've also learned from you as well about you, I'm about to say, is that the fact that they had trusted your opinion on the matter here, to me, that said a lot about you as well too. Because even with Lewis as well, even after I've spoken with Lewis, there are times we talked about you, and he's like, yeah, Gary said these things too, and I was like, okay, good. So that's consistent across the board. So I think that's a very important value. So I told Lewis recently as well, and even Jesse too, that despite the fact I'm fans of your all's work, the most important thing that I've taken away from our interactions here, believe it or not, it's not really the work that you guys have done. It's more about the personal interactions I've had here with you guys, where I remember the fact that you guys were very nice people. And that's the part that I remember the most. And I can see now more often now, where when I talked to Devaney recently, that I was telling her that there's a lot of people that I happen to come across, and it's a small circle of people that you guys happen to know, and it gets smaller and smaller once you work with them more often, that you realize that what the reasons why they do this, not because of necessarily the work themselves, is because they're great to get along with there. And that's a very important factor in this industry that I've learned before about, but now I understand it much better now because of, my relationship with yourself and the various other people that have come across as well too, the point where I've got numbers from various people that have given to me personally for me to call them or reach out to them, when I don't have to go through all the other channels that normally we would have to go through to speak with them and whatnot. So that was something that I've kind of learned along the way, and understanding the value of that, primarily because of what I have been able to accomplish here with talking with the various guests because of you. So, I want to say thank you so much for doing that. And that means a lot to me personally, how you've been able to been very instrumental in being a part of that as well too. So thanks again for that.
You're welcome, man. It's the name of the game. That's how I stay busy. It's people recommended me from, oh, Gary is this, that's how we keep afloat. People take care of each other and as long as everyone stays cool. I mean, it's a small world. So if someone does stupid, believe me, that gets spread just as fast as, Rap's a great fucking guy too. So that keeps spreading as long as everything stays cool with everybody. So, and you're genuine, man. You're good at what you do. You take pride in it. And that's what everyone has said. And everyone comes back. Even Luke was like, after you both have messaged me after you talked with Luke Albright, and it's like, great talk. And Luke's like, you're right. He's really just you interview different. You find stuff that we haven't answered before in a way you go about it. So it makes it fun to talk with you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I forgot to mention Luke. So yeah, shout out to Luke as well too. He was a great person to talk with as well. I wish we had more time, but that's always the name of the business here. But there's actually one thing that because I was trying to go back and revisit some things that I may have missed out the first time around, whether it be in private or in on our last conversation on the show, which I think was about 2 years ago, if I remember correctly. When we were, I think it's been 2 years now. So it's crazy to think about it now, even with Lewis as well too, which I'm hoping we can get something worked out in the future. But Like I realize that the various people that I've been able to maintain the most consistent communication with here, it's starting to, I'm looking back at it, it's been like a couple of years at this point. But what I was trying to find for you to kind of start off here with you is because we'll get into some of the projects that you worked on here that I really want to delve into here with you. But there was something that I remember, I think you briefly said before in a few conversations, and I think with me at one point, where, because you talk before, you and I, when we talked in the past, the one thing I remember you had said that stuck out for me, it was the fact that I had asked you about if you had done it for the fame and glory, and you said no, that you did it because you're passionate about the craft, you're passionate about the art form, and that you really care about the respect from your peers more so than you do about the fame and whatever else. But then somewhere along the way, I can't remember if you had said it maybe with Natalia or with somebody else, if I recall, that there was a point where after you had wanted to stop acting, I think it was after Daylight's End, and you had stopped for a period of time, and then somewhere along the way you decided to get back into it. But what was curious for me about that is because I don't know if how in depth you are willing to get into here, but I'm actually really curious about that period in your life because to me, you strike me as a person that whenever you are invested in something, I don't see yourself getting yourself uninvested for it. So for you to take a break for a long period of time for something that you're really passionate about, and then kind of get back into it, and it looks like things have moved on pretty well for you. I would say, I wouldn't say quickly, but there's momentum for you. And you also talked before about I think you said you don't have a manager, so you've been very fortunate to get jobs when it comes to people reaching out to you, offering you jobs, and you've been very selective. You're in a position where you are able to select projects that you really want to work on that will, whether it be for developing relationships or just the fact that you are really passionate about the craft. But prior to all that taking place there now, because I'm assuming that because you stepped away and came back, you come back with a whole new set of lenses. But I'm not sure when you walked away, that part of your life, what it was that made you want to step away, and then eventually what made you decide to come back into it, and if you came back to it kind of organically, or was one of those situations where nothing else worked for you and you figure I'm just going to go back to one thing that did somewhat work for me, and therefore see if it continues to work for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly just personal stuff.
Right.
After Daylight's End, my whole life went on a whole other level, different with separation. My kids were further away. I was going through all this kind of personal, relocation, and just focus on anything else. And I figured that's the most important thing, is to get myself in a better position, in my personal life, because, that was the way it was. And then things that were coming my way, I just wasn't interested in until Purgatory Road. When Mark Savage sent me Purgatory Road, he was like, "Hey, buddy, this," which was about 3 or 4 years later. I was like, yeah. And in between projects, I like to sometimes just work normal jobs, learn new trades. It's kind of how I stay grounded, if it's even, whatever you can do. So, but that particular time that you're talking about, it was all personal. That kept me away from the game. And then Purgatory Road, reading that script sparked something. I said, okay, I can still focus with my life in turmoil. Because it's funny, as I started getting it better again, and then Purgatory came around, it just went downhill as I was filming the movie. Like the week of is crazy. The week before, and Mark was nervous. I was texting, but I don't figure some stuff out right now. But nonetheless, I was able to handle that. And then after that, I go, you know what? This is what I'm meant to do, no matter what. That's why I got that tattoo. I don't know if you can see it. Infinitely, it's an arrow with an infinity sign that just reminds me to infinitely move forward, no matter what happens in life. And that's my career. That's whatever happens. And I've been fortunate enough to have amazing people around me in the film industry and my personal life that I just keep coming. And that's just getting more and more lined up right now. So it's fun.
Because you said you believe that it sounds like you almost believe that you're meant for this here, but do you believe things happen for a reason though? Because I've talked before about this with various other people, and I'm in a position where I don't necessarily believe that. And I'm not saying that that I'm right and you're wrong. It's not what I'm getting at here. But the reason why I don't believe that, and I want to get your perspective on this, because it just seems a little. I'm just not convinced of that thought process here. But for yourself though, even when you had taken jobs in between projects you're working on, was it one of those things where when you took on more or less like a regular job, and you've tried it, did you get some sort of satisfaction out of it that you would in those respective fields that you probably did in the acting field, or is it one of those things that just to get by until the next one comes up?
I mean, it's taught me discipline that I've lacked in my life. When I can show up at a job, and most of the jobs I've kept, sometimes the last one day, to be honest with you, I'm like, oh, well, that's not for me. Stuff that I've done, I've just tried them, and I'll be sitting around. I have family, I have friends, and I'm around random people sometimes. They'll be like, you want to try coming out here? I used to do flooring back when I was like 19, 20, did flooring and carpeting. I remember running into my friend Matt, who hit me up, goes, hey, can you get a hold of Rod about doing flooring? I ended up connecting with him again. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm just chilling. I was like, I got back from, Purgatory Road and just trying to find myself again. He goes, hey, you busy? And I go, you know what? Let me work with you again. And it only lasted like a month or so, but I liked getting up, showing up, doing the physical. I actually enjoy it. I don't know if I would love to do it for 30 years every day, but every now and then I like to get my hands dirty and do certain things because it is rewarding when you're done. And I haven't done that.
Toes into it.
Yeah, and you learn. I mean, you learn different trades, and it helps. And I'm always thinking everything at the end of the day mentally revolves around my artistic side. I channel it, whatever it may be. I've done sales. I do like a lot of the physical stuff I've done. It's been a minute since I've done it, but for some reason, I enjoy it. I remember hearing a story, what motivated me to start doing little side jobs in between. I mean, granted, and it's extra money. It's like therapy, but it's also like, I remember hearing a story, I don't know how accurate it is, but about Daniel Day-Lewis, when they were approaching him about doing Gangs of New York or some project, that he was doing shoe cobblery in Italy just to, you know what I mean? You're just like living in Italy, just trying to do a different thing that's how I vibe with the real world. And being as authentic as I can being around authentic situations as much as possible. And you kind of have to blend in. One thing I do, my pet peeve is when they start knowing what I do outside of that work, like film, then it kind of changed the game for me. Because I just want to be blending in. And when they start going, oh, you're an actor? I'm like, oh, it does throw me off a little bit.
But why does that throw you off though? If they're just curious about it, are you afraid that they're going to be like, do you know this actor? Have you worked on these projects? What's the concept? What's the perspective for you?
And maybe I need to be better about it for what it is. But there's people that are like, oh, he's an actor. And, oh, dude, it's just random people since I was younger. Like, oh, do something. I'm like, I'm not going to do a little.
Oh, I see. Like basically put on a show.
Or they start giving you a little better treatment. Like, and I'm like, don't treat me any different. For some reason, it does. And one time that the only thing I appreciate is if they do work with my schedule, because I'm like, well, I got to be gone for a month here, but I haven't had to worry about that for a while. But it's just little things like that. Nothing. Yeah. I just like to do the job and really retain it for what it is, and it's my escape from it too. Like artistically, like it's like when you talk about me wanting to dive fully in, that is diving in. So if people start talking about artistic side, or, oh, you're going to do this for a role, it's like, no, but I do channel everything I do. Like, and no matter what it is, drinking a coffee, waking up, walking, it's still all about, I know at the end of the day, I develop characters constantly. And I'm still me, but I'm ready for whatever. I'm on the edge of my seat for whatever role might pop up more and more as I get older too. Like I'm ready, like there's things lining up and I'm like a bull, just ready to get out of the cage. Like, I just did something in Colorado, which is a scary situation on the flight, but it's humbling. It's definitely a humbling experience.
So, because when you and I talked in private before, you talked about some projects that you were offered and you were very selective on. But I think what I want to actually delve into more about that is because, I talked to Devin and she tells me she's very selective about the project she's working on for obvious reasons. Because she does have a brand about herself, which I understand where she's coming from too. But when it comes to your process in selecting a role, I'm not sure if you have like more or less exception to the rules, because like I talked to Bill Erbers, who you've worked with before on Monumental. And, before he would talked about that, he would take on certain projects for more or less superficial reasons. But then, as time has gone by, his perception, his attitude has changed a lot about how he conducts himself when it comes to the work that he's taking on. But then he'll take on a project purely for the fact that I get to work with so person, maybe be Rob Zombie or Jamie Lee Curtis, whatever the case may be. And when I'd asked him about, why he would work, what's different about that selection process as whereas before, you probably would have done it for the same exact reason, just for the experience. But when it comes for you now, when Jesse reached out to you, obviously you're going to want to work with Jesse, considering his track record. And albeit the role that you had was rather small, but you still got to work with him, got to work with Tom, and so on. So you had that experience. But apart from that, if you are making a selection to work on a project, apart from having to connect with the characters, but I guess I'm really curious about, is it more of are you taking on projects mainly because of you want to connect with the role, or is there also the financial side of it as well too? Because when you worked on One Ranger, you pointed out before that they paid well, but you didn't work with them for that long. But the part you had the opportunity to work with them, that to me seemed like the primary reason for that, and then everything else kind of just fell into place. But if you're making a selection on working on a project, like what's really the main reasons for why you want to work on the project, apart from the fact that you can connect with the character in the story? Because every actor, I think, has a different variations for the reasons for each project. But I'm curious about what your process is like for that for yourself under on those very circumstances for you.
I mean, honestly, it varies. It's not. I don't know if it's a particular process. It's if it makes sense, you do it. Like obviously, when Jesse Johnson calls, you're going to take a look at it, no matter what it is, no matter how small, whatever, no matter what it pays. You're automatically interested. And let's put it this way. I mean, I'm happy I was part of it. Working with Jesse, my first time getting to just watch him was exciting. Right. If he would have just invited me to set to watch him, I probably would have went. You know what I mean? Because I'm a fan of him.
Right.
So just play a little role, sit and scene with one of my favorite actors of all time, Thomas Jane.
Yeah, same.
To me, that's a priceless experience. If it was like a director that I don't know about, with some people I don't know about, I definitely probably wouldn't have showed up. Absolutely not. But you automatically consider certain things with certain directors. And that was like a no-brainer for me. So, and then other stuff, like I have a project I'm producing in, soon. And they want me to be in it, but I don't want to be in it. So it's constant, like a couple of texts every day. Come on, play it. I'm like, no. And the reason is I just feel like originally there was going to be another guy playing the role that's not playing it. But I feel like I'm not the best pick for the role. I read it and I go, maybe 10 years ago, I would have been a great person for this role. I don't fit right now at this moment, this juncture. Plus, I have other stuff that it might interfere with time-wise, scheduling. I might be in Brazil with another project. Like I might be in Georgia. There's options. I might be flying. Might be near you coming up too. That's why I'm always asking, how far are you from West Virginia? Because you know what I mean? Like I'm like, because I want to definitely connect with you face to face. So
right.
It's there's constant things going on. So scheduling can make a difference.
Right.
But if it's say like there's nothing in the way, and it's like this would be the really best way to describe the process is say you got a completely open slate and you just look at a project and you're like, I like the role, but I don't trust the director. That would be something that throws me off. Like, and I'm all for giving someone a shot, but I'm also like, it matters now. You know what I mean? Everything matters. Yeah. Directors can make or break something. Slagle calls me. I've yet to work with Slagle. You know what I mean? And
well, technically, you kind of worked for him with the script that he wrote.
Well, yeah, with Blood Hunt. Yeah. So we are connected with Blood Hunt, in so many other ways. I've actually worked with Devaney on another thing I wouldn't have done. Hollow Point, another kind of disappearing type role. I knew going in. I said no to it numerous times, and I'm in there. But I'm so glad I did it because I met Jay Giannone, who I think is just a phenomenal person, actor, all around dude. Without those experiences, I wouldn't. You take the positive and negative. It's like I don't promote Hollow Point. I mean, I don't think Hollow Point's like a bad film. It's just there's nothing for me. I'm like, it's like a glorified extra. I have a few lines that they cut around, or whatever. So I'm like, but those are one of those hit or miss. Chad Law is calling me, come on, do the role. Daniel Zarelli's hit me up, and so those are those hit or miss ones I almost didn't do or did do. There's a bunch of those that I didn't do. But Devaney, I'm sure it's very similar. And Devaney, and she creates her own content too. She's a boss.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll write this, I'll direct this, I'll produce this, I'll star in this, I'll cast you, I'll cast you. Like I knew about Black Mass coming on, like what was coming on with it. I almost played a role if we would have done with Corin Nemec, me and him on this piece, but we ended up scheduling, it just didn't work out. Or else we would have been in Black Mass. So there's all these behind the scenes stuff I'm always getting messages about. But Devaney, I mean, she's so busy with her own stuff, and same with me, that to take us from that, it's like got to be worth the time. And she's a mom too, you know what I mean? So basically, Devaney, I have mad respect for her. I think she's one of the hardest working actresses, producers, directors in the game, and counting.
There's something that I've learned more about with the industry, with the various people I talk in private, and it's a lot of things that without really delving into it, but I do want to get your perspective on something, because I think we may have touched upon it before in some part of the conversation between this is the first time we spoke, but the industry has changed a lot now, right? Currently right now, at least as of this recording, there's the actor strike, the writer strike, and I didn't, I talked to Derek Presley and Jason Starn, who Derek wrote and directed, wrote and directed Whitetail, Redstone, and Jason Starn, meant to say, produced both of those films. And when they talked about the making of Whitetail, which was a purely independent project, that they had investors and they were pretty much in control, like 95% of the project. Once they got into Redstone, once Neil McDonough had come into the project, to make a long story short, I'm not sure if you may have already been aware of it, but Neil had some ideas, and Derek is like, all right, well, let's just try it this way. And then with his involvement, they had a lot more money coming in, and then unions started getting involved. And I've heard these stories before too, but to hear from them directly, they told me just the minute things. I didn't realize how strict those projects can be when it comes to everyone's job. But he was telling me that, even something as simple as picking up the trash, certain people can't do it because that's not part of their job. Like, it literally is like that. And I was like, so you mean to tell me that if an actor happened to walk by a bag of trash and you ask him, hey, can you please pick that up so no one trips over it? No, it's not my job. And then you just keep walking. He's like, yeah, it's literally like that. And I was like, I didn't realize it was that strict. At least that's how they explained it. That's how I remembered it. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I'd have to see that conversation in content to really understand it.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm sure I just say it like, if that's a rule, I'd laugh at that rule. And if SAG was on set, tell me, I'd laugh right in that SAG unit's face. Like, I'd be like, if I'll pick it up, I don't care. Right. I tell them to literally fuck off. Like, I think that's really stupid. And there's a rule though in SAG, and I purposely break it just because I think it's disrespectful to the crew, which I just did in Horsepower when we were on Cortez, Colorado last week. Actors are supposed to eat first. They go in line first. So I purposely sit back and make sure every union, or not, I don't care if union or not, every crew person eats before me, and I make sure I'm the last person to get the plate every single time, because it's just, to me, the crew they get there first. They're nonstop working. They have to set up stuff before I even have to be on set. So I don't know why that's a rule. It's a stupid rule. It's like, strategically anyway, for a movie set. Crew, they're people too that working their ass off. I hate that is a rule. Actors eat first. Like, go fuck yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, we don't eat first. I'll get my plate last. I don't give a shit every single time. I do it on purpose, like every time. Because there was a joke in Colorado just recently. After my second take, I guess this big gaffer guy was like, "Hey, that guy over there was just like saying that he's not going to cut in front of you in line after your take." Because I had this really crazy character, and I guess I freaked him out. And that's what made me remind me. When we got to lunch, I told him, "Come here." He goes, "No." I go, "No." He was joking because he's not afraid of it. But I make it a point every time. Like, pick up trash. I'll pick up trash. I'll carry shit. I was unloading waters from set. I see them carrying it. I'm like, let's go. Like, I'll carry a water. Like, Keanu Reeves carries shit. You know what I mean? Like, you see him in videos. Whoever follows that rule, I think is dumb. I'm not saying the person's it's whatever. Like, I'll pick up trash. If someone's going to tell me not to pick up trash, like I said, SAG, I have my issues with SAG. Right. Everyone's out there picketing. Like, I understand there's certain wages, but like, there is some stupid rules that SAG does that truly hinders actors making money as well, like they really do.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a dumb rule, though.
Well, I mean, the point I'm getting at here is, and I appreciate give me your perspective, because I actually kind of jumped in ahead with that. But I was curious about the way things are going right now. Like one of the things I've learned more now lately, especially now that I know more or less what goes on behind the scenes with various studios and whatever else, that I'm gonna be straight up when I say it, but it seems like it's a lot of bullshit. You pointed out before about some stories behind the scenes that you've shared with me and so on. There's a lot of bullshit that goes on, and then when it becomes when some of the things that I'm aware of here, when it comes to certain things that I know what's going on behind the scenes, and then when it gets presented more or less to the public in some way, it's kind of polished, right? Well, these are the things that happen. It's just, it's almost night and day from what really did happen. They're just fine tuning certain details to not have anyone to blame in the situation there, or whatever the case may be. It's kind of like I equate it to that whole situation where people say, well, the director left because of creative differences. That could mean 90 million things. So,
yeah.
But here's what I will say, though, is that I think lately now for myself, I'm starting to understand one of the real reasons why I lean more towards independent projects more so now than I have been in the last 10 years of my life. Because when I've learned that when you have directors who are writing projects and they're starting it from the ground up, and despite the hurdles they have to go through, I mean, Lewis I think is a great example of that as well, where they're working on a project. He's working on Smokers. I remember we talked about that movie 2 years ago, and even to this day, he's putting the film together on his own time because it's all him doing it, and you can clearly see he's very passionate about it. But it's not something that he's able to do, on a frequent basis, and he's taking this time whenever he can do so to invest into that project, even though the project's done, but it's not completely done. And something about that speaks more volumes to me than a major studio project. I'm not to say that I'm not excited about new major studio project. I am, but something about the independent stuff speaks out to me more so now than it has many, many, many years ago. And I find that the guys who are working in the indie side of it, there's something about that mindset for me personally that they're not famous, they're not clearly to me they don't look like they're doing it for the fame, for the attention, I rather, but more for just purely for the passion. And they've been doing it for decades at this point. And those are the people that I lean more towards when it comes to who worked on these, who are working on these projects that they've been developing for years or whatever the case may be. And then when they finally get it out there, the biggest gripe that I have with virtually every project that I've come across is that there's a promotion that lasts for 10 seconds and then boom, it's gone. Then the next one comes in because there's an oversaturation in the market. And of course, when you have a studio behind it, you have a lot of time and money to invest, and they set up all these elaborate set scenarios for the actors and whoever else to make it look very glossy. But and then when you learn behind the scene what really goes on, it's like it's not so pretty. It's not a very pretty situation. But with that being said, though, I'm not sure if for yourself, if anything has changed for you about how you look at yourself in the industry, because you talked before about how, even in private with me, you've talked about how you're very careful with who you bring into your circle and who you want to work with for the reasons you pointed out beforehand. But I'm also wanting to know about what may have changed for you lately now that because you've had a bit of momentum with the projects you've been being sought after for, and people calling you and say, we want you for this. I'm sure something has changed along the way. Whereas, in the very beginning, what may have not been like that for you, where you were given projects, you had to work hard for them. Once you got them, you still had to work hard for the next one. But it seems like more and more lately, it's like people are saying, Gary, we want to work with you. Are you available tomorrow? Yes. Okay, come on in. We'll set things up for you. So there's a bit of a shift in your career. It looks like to me that something may have changed along the way, how you may look at yourself ever since these changes have occurred. And I'm wondering what has changed for you under those circumstances, considering the various projects you worked on, whether it be major studios or indie projects. But I want to know what has changed for you in that, from your perspective, and more or less working both sides of the industry when it comes to television, movies, whatever the case may be. So I apologize for the elongated question, but I hope you understand why I want to come up with that.
I don't know if change is the right word. I say it just kind of adds more reassurance to what you kind of because there's times in your life and career, no matter what you do, you're going to doubt yourself. You're going to wake up, and I think that's going to happen to the day that I die. You know, have
Right.
my certain days, like, okay, but that's an internal thing. But back in the day, it's like I know I'm capable of, and you studying, and it's just slowly more and more coming around. Like Peter Dobson was just telling me a month ago, he's all, "You're in demand, buddy," you know, or whatever he was just going on because we were talking about scheduling. And he needs to be here, and I need to be here. Because he's been in the game a lot, and I've been
Right.
fortunate to be around people that have been in the game and share their wisdom with me. And it's more of like a reassurance thing, a change. I still feel like the same dude, just more mature. Not that I was some idiot about it, but I feel like I'm calmer about it. I'm not worried about this. Usually I'll have like one movie and then like it takes 2 or 3 years to come out and there's nothing in between just because I'll sit back. But now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm like, I have stuff coming out, some of it. I'm like, well, I don't say I don't care about it, but
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever, whatever. I'm not worried. I'm not thinking about it. I keep forgetting. Everyone's like this, like, oh yeah, it's not even out yet. You know what I mean? Like there's once a week, someone's asking me about like Day Labor or something like that. I was like, you know what? I forgot about that film. You know what I mean? Like it's just funny. So it's more of honestly just reassurance, and I'm more poised, if there's another word. I'm ready just to show up whenever and be ready. And I think the key thing is not so much me that's changed. I think not my audience has grown outside of the film industry, maybe a little bit, but more of my peers, and that, like I said, is the key, because that's what's keeping me. Like other filmmakers are taking notice, going, "Hey," and then they know someone that knows me, and they're like, "Oh," and I get a good praise, like, "Oh, this guy's great and easy to work with." That is what, if anything, feels the best, because I have scripts. I don't know when they're shooting or when, but they're like, "I want you to play this role when I get it done." It could be 10 years from now, it could be next month, who knows? But there's a bunch of those right now, and they're really good roles. And I'm just sitting back, staying focused, staying healthy, and as much as I can, and ready. So that's the key thing, is I don't have to worry about things that I used to worry about before, which is a bonus.
Do you ever think about, because I've asked this question before, but I'm going to ask you here, if one day this all were to stop, because I'm curious if you identify yourself with this craft, because if it were to be taken away from, let's say hypothetically, it's you stop getting the calls, you have to start from the ground up, you're working, you're trying to get auditions, but the auditions are not coming through, or you do get auditions but you're not getting the part. And now it comes to the point where you're just going to audition for roles that you probably would never consider doing. Now you're going to try, and you're not even getting those parts. And I'm wondering if that were to happen to you, how you think you would handle that for yourself, because with every amount of success you're getting here, and the success that I'm referring to is really just about the opportunities you're getting and the fact you get to work with various talents out there. But if that were to stop for you right now, and one day, maybe Lewis might say to you, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry, but these projects I'm working on, I can't get anything here for you. If I can, I will let you know, but right now I just can't, and I know you can trust that I'm telling you the truth, but I just can't for right now." And I'm wondering if there's going to be a part of you that would consider, like, what's even the point then if I can't do this, because I love this, and if I can't do this, then what is my purpose then?
I mean, if that were to happen in a major hypothetical world, because that was like my career first 10 years.
Right.
So it's hard to fall back unless I were to murder someone or do something really crazy. I don't see that happening, in all honesty. So I can't even put myself into that. In hypothetically, if it did happen, I'll just create my own content. Like that's how Monumental came about. You know what I mean? You hit a lull, I just started writing, started creating content. So, which I'm always creating. I'm working with, still trying to develop it. I'm just so busy with other stuff, I can't even create my own content. I can't finish the scripts that we're writing. So it's me and Sean Crane who are always trying to write something. So, but if it were to happen, I would no one wanted to take my stuff, and we're like, "Gary, we're blackballing you from the world." Well, I'd find some other thing to do good at, and just whatever it is I do, I would try to do my best at it. I would honestly be like, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so you wouldn't let that hold you back, basically.
Never, no.
Okay.
Like I'm not going to hide under a rock. I did that for too long in my life, with just letting things bury me for years at a time. I'm not going to hide. I know who I am, and there's no way that I'll let something stop me. Really, honestly.
What have you ever because you pointed something out before that I'm actually I want to get your opinion on. I want you to be. I'll probably can be really honest with me about this, but when you work on a project and you understand how hard it is to make a movie, and there are various projects you've pointed out before that you're not so happy, you're not so proud of, and there are plenty you can look back and you can watch without any sort of hesitation. I think Daylight 10 is a great example of that as well. But when you work on a project, well, yeah, and but when you work on a project and you have a feeling that this is not going to turn out very well, and then you watch and you realize, yeah, it's not. It's exactly what I expected it to be. But then you have people that come out and say, "Hey, Gary, we want you to promote the movie. We want you to, spread the word." And you know that I don't like this film. I don't want to promote something that I don't really feel passionate about, even though I was interested, but I don't have the same passion anymore after the fact. How do you deal with that for yourself, and knowing that you want to be respectful of your peers? And let's say you did have a great relationship with them, you have a good working relationship, then you had a great time on set, but the film wasn't very good. How do you go about handling that for yourself and being respectful to the project, but also with your coworkers as well too, considering knowing that you didn't like it and you don't feel invested to want to go and promote it?
Well, currently, I don't know what I would not want to promote, even yet coming. But in the past, I've had a movie resurrect itself. I'm not going to give the name, because I think maybe I was talking about this privately, about a project I did way back in the day, and it got re-released. And the director was like, "Gary, it's out in here, it's on there." But it was on Netflix when Netflix first started. You know what I mean? So it was a big deal back in the day, when you can actually get the disc sent to you. And I'm just like, he's like, "When are you going to promote it?" And I'm like, "I'm not." And he's like, "Why not?" And I was like, and this particular project, because I'm beyond it in every way. That's why. And in the principal aspect of it too, is he was bragging to me how much money the movie made. And I don't know, that could be horse shit. You know what I mean? Who knows? Right. And I had a deferred pay. I didn't get paid to do the movie. It was supposed to be deferred pay, and I was supposed to have 5% ownership of all net profit, everything profit, whatever it made. And so if it made money, then I was like, okay. And I didn't care. I mean, whatever, he can keep his pennies. But I'm not gonna promote the film. I just don't think it's even a right time. I think it's a negative film. And I know some people have its fan base, but some of my day oneers still hit me up. I have great communication with them the last 15 years. There's like 5 of them, and they list their favorite movie. And it's like literally hit me up. They talk about it. They call me the OG. And, it's good for them, but I'm still not going to promote it. So that's the only one. If anything coming up, there's one red carpet I won't go to, just because of a producer that's involved. Nothing to do with the film whatsoever, but one of the producers, I just will not deal with him. Yeah, I think he's a piece of crap. And if he watches this, I doubt he will. He knows who he is. But I won't go. Everyone knows I won't go. But I'll promote the film because of the people involved I respect. I won't even say what film it is, because it's just better to let certain things linger, I guess. I don't know.
Do you feel like things are getting better in terms of the industry, when it comes
getting
to
better?
Yeah, what I mean by getting better is like, because look, I've been, I talked to Jonathan before, and in private, he's told me some projects he's working on. I'm like, holy shit, this is like for me, it's exciting stuff, the things he's going to be working on. Hopefully, will come to fruition. But just the idea that we all, you know that it's a very long process to get projects off the ground. But when you start working on them and then you get them out there, there's something very exciting about that. And then especially when you have people very interested in the project that are paying to go see it, that's an even bigger satisfaction out of it. So, but what I'm curious from your perspective is, do you think things are getting better for the industry in terms of the indie side of it, where you have movies, you have streamers like Tubi, which to me right now, Tubi is my favorite streaming platform, more so than Netflix and all the other.
I think it's getting better. I mean, I could say flat out, I think it's getting better. I think it's night and day difference. I think that the independent people are showing that their power. I mean, I barely deal with studios. I've had some movies that are shot independently and a studio distributes it, like Hero
Right.
Wanted or something like that. So somebody will pick it up. But I'm like, I've thrived in the indie game, and I think it's only getting better, especially if you know what you're doing. You deal with producers that know what they're doing, like Chad Law, Jonathan Southcott.
Yeah.
They know the industry from back in the day. They know where it is now, and they know where it's going. So if you're surround yourself around smart people that know the game and how to make it, they're not trying to do something. They're not trying to compete with the studios. They don't need to,
Right.
and they can do it easier without the headache, and make the content they want without some non-creative person tell them how to make their movie. So that's the beauty. I know Jonathan Southcott really cares. He's honest about things he didn't like about his projects and
Yeah.
things he likes about it. I think if Jonathan gets the full say on his production, it'll be a good production. He knows what he's doing. He really does. That's how I've been able to connect with him, because he's dealing with a lot of people in my circle that
Yeah.
we all think the same way. And I like Miles Cloesi is another one that's just about to take over this damn town. So, I definitely think it's getting better in every way. Like, I'm excited about tomorrow and beyond for sure.
But do you think though that there's going to be a shift in when it comes to indie films where, because before it seems like when it came to independent projects that there is there's a certain clout that they had where you could transition into mainstream, but it doesn't, to me mainstream almost seems a little irrelevant now to a degree for myself, because it's
Yeah.
becoming more or less like a repetitive process. But with indie films, on the other hand, like I pointed out with 3 Days of Midnight, and even with what's it called, Battle for Saipan, like it's a throwback to the films that I grew up watching as a kid, and now I'm seeing guys that were fans of that stuff more or less bringing that back to a new generation, if you will. But it's the caveat I would say would be that because it's not mainstream, that there might be some people who are going to oversee that because they're not being promoted heavily like a Transformer or whatever else. So something about that for me speaks volumes. But there is the marketing side, which I think eventually it'll find its audience, but I don't want it to be the situation like 15 years from now, all of a sudden Brandon Slagle is getting more attention if he's at a point where he may not
That's
want
how,
to do
if
it
you knew him,
anymore.
but did you know who he was 15 years ago?
Right. That's right.
And that's him. Look at him now. Like, he's he's the same Brandon Segel from back when I knew him 15 years ago, on the rise. Now he's able to call a shot, and to me, it's only going to get better for him. People are
Right.
going to start respecting what he does, and give him more budget. Like, he's doing great things with. I mean, I'm talking small budget. A studio wouldn't know what to do with what a whole budget is. That's like an hour for them. The whole budget of some of these things, they overspend because they're following these guidelines. I think people like Slagle and I'm trying to think of other independent filmmakers,
Will
Louis, and yeah, a
Kaufman.
bunch of,
Yeah.
well, Kaufman, yeah, they're more and more people are going to start seeing and respecting them. And if those that don't see it because they're like, oh, okay, whatever, they're going to follow the mainstream. They're just like, I don't want to call them sheep, but they only follow what the media and the market puts on them. Every ad that you watch in a TV show or in a movie comes on for Barbie and Oppenheimer or whatever, cool. The studios, they got $100 million to market that, just to market it. That's just strictly for buying ad space. Some of these independents don't have that. Some of them do, like Till Death Do Us Part, independent film.
Yeah.
That's advertised everywhere. I was literally on my flight home from Denver after I had that ridiculous flight over the Rockies and that little one. I was watching the monitor. I was watching the map, because I always watch the map. And on the map, it literally had advertisements. I seen a bunch of studio ones listed. All of a sudden it said, Till Death Do Us Part, new action comedy. I was like, wow. I was trying to take a screenshot so I could send it to Chad, and it went away. But like, that movie's got some marketing behind it. Like,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and that's what you paid for. Something that the channel didn't have, something that, they don't have the marketing dollars behind it. It's all subject to what people think is a better film or not. It's all comes down to taste. But it's like, who's a celebrity? Everyone in the damn world is a celebrity. You go on, you don't even know who's who. So I just looked at someone the other day. They had 4.3 million followers on Instagram. I was like, I've never even heard of this person, or nor anyone involved. But I don't. Are the numbers real? Who knows, man? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I just say, if watch what you like. Independent people. I mean, independent. I mean, remember, what's it called? Hurt Locker was an independent film. Yeah, it was made
Yeah.
with an A-lister director, but it was still independently financed, funded. It wasn't funded by a studio. Um, they're getting more. It's getting better. And like Mark Ruffalo, I think, said something like, "Just screw the studios."
Yeah.
I'm not saying screw the studios. I'm not saying screw anybody. I say, hey, if you want to go the big that route, great too. Whatever you want to make. Like I'm rooting for everyone to win. I'm not hating on no one. But I do think the independent world is definitely getting stronger, especially with these platforms and actors. That's a whole other pay. How they want to. I think what I mean. If you see my stories, I'm talking about transparency. I think
Yeah.
if they're transparent, we might be getting paid more and we get avoid the strike altogether. Maybe I'm speaking ignorantly. I don't know all the facts, but I just there's some films I've done and I'm like, it's had to have made $1. Sometimes you're waiting for it, and I'm like, it's just weird. So I don't think there's. I just think that however they channel some of these residuals are bogus, and I would look at the distributors first. I really would, like the major distributions, not just the contracts. So, I mean, there's a whole other can of worms that we were talking about, even when we were filming in Colorado. Robert Davi, what a genius mind that guy
Yeah.
is. I didn't really realize, and he's hilarious. But
Yeah.
there's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to the SAG strike that I wasn't aware of. That a lot of these people picketing aren't aware of. Some people don't even saw my video where people don't want to promote a movie. No one said anything directly to me about not posting a movie. Like, you shouldn't post your movie during the strike. But I've had people hit me up and say, hey, this person said I shouldn't promote my movie. And I'm like, who's this? And I look them up. No resume, no credit, of course. And there's a lot of people that follow rules that have nothing. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to break rules. I'm not saying be a scab or whatever, but most people, including me, don't know all the facts. We have people don't know what they're talking about, and they're out there doing their thing. And I think I think everyone should everyone, including me, learn all the facts before doing anything. So I'm following certain rules that are applied. Like the thing I am doing, the SAG interim agreement. I want to support my peers, and that's what I'm all about. Is supporting my peers. You're a filmmaker, that's who I support. Period. At the end of the day, not the studios, not the. I don't. And what way do you handle it? I think by showing your strength independently, if anything, can make the studios respect you more. And that's kind of what Mark Ruffalo was saying: is like show your strength independently, and it adds to your value. It really does, and that's my opinion on it.
You talked about supporting peers. Is there, because I'm gonna bring somebody up, but I want to see what yours is gonna be first, because is there somebody of whose work you've watched, whether it be an actor, director, that you saw in the indie side, you looked at their projects like, holy shit, these guys got something that could change, everything, if you will. So is there anything that you have watched recently that made you realize that there could be the next I'm not gonna say the big star, but that's not what I refer to, like the next big thing in terms of like, this person did something here that we've all seen before, but completely changed it, that if everyone caught on, imagine what they can do on a larger scale.
I mean, most independent films I see that there's a movie, I can't remember the director name, but the movie Blue Ruins. I remember watching independent movie, and I remember going, wow, well made, well scored. There's a lot of independent. What did I just see something recently too? God, I think I posted it. I watch like 3 movies a day, and sometimes I'm like, this one needs a lot of love. They should get. I never heard of it. I can't think of anything offhand but Blue Ruin. You've seen that movie?
No.
The director, you should check it out. I don't know him. I have no communication with him. I remember Chad Law goes, check this movie out. And I watched it. Damn, good. I mean, everything about it. It seems like Warner Brothers made it. Like, it's the cinematography, everything. Kind of even with the people I just worked with, Horsepower. I think as producers with Joe Serino and these people put together, the group, the team, phenomenal. A phenomenal group. But there's honestly any of these I'm trying to think of the name of the film I just saw. It's bugging me.
I think I know which one it is,
off.
which is why I see if you can remember what. So here's what I'm going to bring it up here, because you posted this on your story recently. It was for Out of Exile, and
yeah.
So
yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, so because I remember, because I talked to the director, Kyle Kawika Harris. I've had him on my show. And in fact, I remember I saw that movie well before it came out last year, or this year rather, I should say. But I saw it last year. But when we talked to, because I talked to Adam Hampton, who I think is a very underrated actor as well. He's a really good director too. And
Who's he? What he did
he
he?
he was the main guy in Out of Exile, the guy with the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he recommended that I talk to his friend Kyle, and I was like, oh, I'll reach out to him. So I did, and Kyle was like, came onto the show, and we conversed, and we hit it off right then and there. And he sent me the screener for the movie well before it was released, and I saw, I was like, dude, this movie's fucking incredible. Because the way that the reason why I connected with that film wasn't because of my least favorite part of the film was the bank robbery scenes, but it was everything else surrounding it was, I thought, was really captivating for me, at least for me personally. But I felt like that the way he described his way of storytelling, I saw that in the film. And I remember thinking, like, if he could do that in 30 days or whatever it was for $250,000 and then get the film done to look the way it did and end the way that it did, imagine what he could do if he had a larger band. This is every director, Will Kaufman, Jesse, all those guys. But if he had that opportunity to do that, the idea seemed way too big, that movie was just too small to contain, in my opinion. So there are a lot of directors out there that have these grand ideas, and the budgets don't do the films justice. But to me, I'm not looking at the budget. I'm looking at the points that I think I've connected with. And when I see a director like Jesse, Will Kaufman, Kyle, all those guys, I'm like, these guys have such grand ideas that those $250,000 budgets isn't enough to expand on those ideas, and they need that time and money to do that.
Yeah, so, and no, it's funny, is I think I first heard of the Exile movie because I think you posted about it, and so it triggered in my mind. And I'm an avid movie watcher, and it took me probably a few months to actually go, okay, let me push play. And if it wouldn't have been in a certain row, I probably wouldn't have looked for it. And that's the problem in the indie game. We need to constantly keep reminding, hey, if you haven't seen this now, I have family members that, are still checking out the channel or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I get to it, I get them on vacation or whatever. Imagine if you don't know anyone involved. So if you didn't post it, I probably still wouldn't have watched it. But I see what you do. So if everyone collaboratively can just promote and help each other, it goes a long way, because I'm thankful I watched that movie. I was thoroughly impressed. And same thing with what you're saying about the movie. I love the inner struggle in that whole movie. I thought it was beautiful. Yeah. I love the actor. I love the guy that played the brother.
Kyle Henry. Yeah.
Whoever he was, an insane guy, whatever, shaved head. I actually felt like I wanted to play the brother. That was a role I would have won. I would have begged for it. I would have said, dude, just show me where it went and where to show up. But I'm not taking anything away from him. I don't think I would have done it better. My mouth was watering watching that, going, fuck, because I feel like I looked like the guy you're talking about a little bit more too. Yeah. I was like, dude, I could have played his brother. I would have done it for fucking free. Just don't show me where to go, because that role was so exciting to me. But possibly because even the way the guy played, I thought he was great. I honestly, he was not like, he made me a fan. I don't even know his name. I should have waited.
Yeah, his name was Kyle Henry.
The guy that played the brother.
Yeah.
What a treat that film was, honestly. So I'm glad you shared it, because I think you did a review on it, and then I remember putting it in my queue. I put it in my queue, and therefore I was scrolling, go, what can I watch? And sometimes I skip along and go, that's it, let's watch this tonight.
Yeah.
Dude, what a blessing. I think that director is he's special. And I
agree too.
And so hopefully I collaborate with him one of these days, the right time.
I hope you do. I really hope you do, because to me, I've said this before, and I mean this every time. I've told this before a million times. I hope he doesn't get bored of me saying this here, but to me, he's one of those guys that is going to be in the same level in the likes of like the Scorseses, the Michael Manns, the Nolans, because something about the way that he goes about telling his story is very specific. That as soon as I watch a frame, I know exactly who that is. And he has such a unique take on the story that I can identify with right away. And I really think he's that good of a director. In fact, some of the projects he's worked on right now that he just finished completing, like I look at like a split second, I was like, oh, this is gonna be beautiful. I can tell right. I sent him a message, hey, this project looks amazing. I can't wait to see it, and so on. But the point I'm getting at is that when I asked you the question before about the project came across in people you see, is because these are the reasons why that I'm like, they're hidden gems out there that no one's ever heard of before. And again, it's not to bring fame and glory, like, make them famous. It's not that. I just want them to have more opportunities, because if they were able to make a movie for $1 million, I don't know what the budget was for the last one, just kind of throwing numbers out there, but if they were making a movie for $1 million, and they were able to do it in such a way that, that I don't think the budget really it factors in about how good the movie's going to look. If you are a really good filmmaker, you'll make anything look like gold. But if they had more time, more resources, and more money, I just think the sky's the limit for them. I mean, if they were able to pull, a budget of $250,000 in 21 days or whatever it was, and then they had 40 days and $20 million, they can make things look like $1 billion at that point.
Well, yeah, so, you can add to the scope, like shooting further. But honestly, watching that Exile, there's not a moment I was watching it going, oh, this seems cheap. They could have done this with this more money. I felt like he maximized. I think sometimes you can have a prison scene and you got like one prison extra. Maybe you need a bunch more that can add, the budget. Some producers don't want to pay $1,000 to get more atmosphere. That adds so much more value than $1,000 that would cost. But some producers don't want to do it. They're like, oh, nope, that's not in our budget. And I think war movies need that long walk to show that set the tone, set the setting. Sometimes they lack that. But this movie, the Exile one, honestly, that when I post something up like on my story, and I'm looking at my TV because it's right there, but I'll put it's because I really thoroughly respect the film. Sometimes I'll promote now before I watch it, but that one I did after the fact because I was like, dude, this was good. I want people to watch this. I'll probably promote it again down the line. Like, check this movie out, check this director out, because that's what it takes, man. I never even want anything out of it. I mean, if I collaborate with a guy in the future, cool. If not, like, I'm always known for giving shout outs randomly. I feel if I watch something and I don't give it a public praise, I feel like down on myself. Like, my God, I just want to spread love in that respect. And sometimes I held back because I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this too much because of how it might seem. I'm like, dude, I really don't get now. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I feel the same way too.
I'm gonna fucking promote it. If I can't wait if I get the only reason why I want to get to a top level is just so I can help bring up people. That's my biggest motivation. Other than that, I'm fine. I don't care. I'll stay right here. But I would love to use a higher platform, bigger platform, and point out, hey, check this movie out. If I win an Academy Award one day, believe me, my next day post will probably be like, hey, check this other movie out. I have no part of it whatsoever, but check it out because more people see it. That's what I would be doing even more.
Yeah, I feel the same way too that you mentioned it because I always wanted to be able to get this to another level, not for the fame and glory. It's more about because I want to bring in guys like yourself, the Kyle Kawika Harrises, and the Will Kaufmans on the show, so I can say, you guys made these great movies, and be like, why aren't you talking to Tom Cruise? No offense, like, Tom Cruise is a good actor. He has his movies that I enjoy, but he's fine. But I want these guys to get the love because these are the guys that I think you all should be focusing on because these guys have done incredible work. And if you guys are overlooking that, you're doing yourself a disservice, is my opinion. But I think that one thing I think are really connected with you in that as well too, because I know that you and I see the same eye to eye when it comes to that. But I guess here's what I wanted to shift here with you is because because we talked about a little bit with One Ranger and then the channel. In fact, I remember when you got the gigs, you sent me messages and you told me like, hey, this is what I'm like. I'm so excited for you. And we were shooting the shit on that. And then, the movies came out. Now, when One Ranger came out, I said in the review, and I'm forgiven for not mentioning your name in there, but I'm glad I posted up the picture so people know who I was talking about. The biggest gripe that I had with the film was the fact that I always feel like whenever movies bring in a good actor or whoever they're bringing into to work on a project and they don't use them to the full potential, I always feel like it's a wasted opportunity. I told Jesse too, after we were conversing to promote this project, I told him off camera that he said, did you like the movie? I was like, no, I really like the film, but I'll be honest with you, the one biggest gripe that I had with the film is that Gary's in the movie, you didn't use him to his full potential. Like, you have such a good actor and he's barely in it, and when he's in it, you can instantly forget that he's in there. And I feel like that was the real motivation for the character, for Tom James' character, that it was brought up and then it was overlooked, and I felt like that was the biggest downfall for the film because everything else worked well, but it's just you have the motivation, and the motivation
even take me out of it. And I thank you for that, but take that I played the role, put some other serviceable actor in that role. The fact that it was supposed to be an important character, it got you should have had at least that moment before, something
Right.
before. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I
Right.
know we're maybe biased a little bit because it's me and you or whatever. But I do agree. Like, I was like, because I didn't have the whole script. That's
Right.
it. I didn't know what happened before or after. I never knew. So watching the film, and I hear like how, oh, Ranger Daniels, this, like, numerous, even at the very end of the movie before he walks away, he's talking about my character. I was like, he's talking about me. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and to be, no one knows who he's talking about. Like, in my
Right.
opinion, like, it's like, who's Ranger Daniels?
Right.
Because it didn't have, they cut that. Even the one scene they cut is it would have been, not that it's a great scene, but it's something a little bit more relationship built that would have been essential. But I think that might have been out of Jesse's hands. I'm not sure. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's probably Lionsgate cutting it for time. They go by. I remember Dean Jagger was talking to me after at the premiere. He's just like, man, they cut stuff of his. I'm not sure what they cut. And he's just like, they want to do a certain formula in a time instead of really telling a longer story. If people don't care about the time, they might, some few people might press play less because it's 10 more minutes than they allowed their mind to go. So it's not 98 minutes or 100. It's 100. It's almost 2 hours. I can't do that long. But that extra 5-10 minutes of telling a story engages you that much more. You remember the
Yeah.
story more. You care about it more. That's the problem with certain. If you don't get to cut it yourself, like at least Will, he's happy with the channel because I mean, that's a legit Will Kaufman movie. No one
Yeah.
told him what to do. No one told him who to cast. He casted who he wanted, how he wanted, put everything together the way he wanted. And that's why it flows. It's a solid film for what he's trying to do.
Yeah. When speaking of the chat, because I remember, when I first saw the image of your character in the movie, I honestly thought your character, because I think I mentioned in the review too, that just that still image we had of you, it seemed like you were much more sinister from that image
Yeah.
that we got. And when I saw them, I was completely surprised. It was the exact opposite of all that I expected. Because I remember, I think I was telling my wife too, was like, yeah, I think Gary's gonna play like some guy who is like bitter, who's gonna ruin everything, and he's gonna be the guy that's gonna be like, you know, more or less who's setting these things up behind the scenes. But without, you okay with me spoiling it for
Yeah, no, I
everybody?
mean, movie's out. I mean,
So
it needs to be talked about. I mean, I put the scene up, you know what I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Will somebody I could post it. I just can't, I had to cut it at a certain point, like,
Right.
the last 30 seconds of it or whatever.
Well, so your character obviously inadvertently revealed, about the robbery to the authorities, more or less. But the way that it was handled was not the way that I anticipated, which I thought was so fucking hilarious. Because when I saw that, it was one of the very rare times in movies where I remember I was literally drinking water or something, and then when I saw the way your character was talking, the way he was conducting stuff, I just blew the water. I was like, "What the fuck? That's not what I expected." It was completely like it was a very welcome surprise. And I remember I rewound the scene again to watch it, just to like get myself just like did I just see what I saw? But anyways, the point I'm getting is that your character, along with Todd Jenkins' character, who I think was great in the movie as well too. You guys, apart from the brothers, but you guys were the two characters in my opinion that, although you had one small scene in the movie, but they were one of the most impactful ones as well. And that's what I remember. I remember when I saw that movie, because I didn't say it in the review, but when I saw the channel, I was like, that's what I wish One Ranger had done with your character, where you had that time to spend with the character, where it made sense why the effects of this character had onto the rest of the story there.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, this is what I felt like One Ranger should have been in the usage of Gary's character. But I'm digressing here. But when you talked before, you sent me the message before about your experience in the audition process, and then you getting to work on the film. In fact, you actually ran into Natalia as well out there too, after you were done shooting as well, which I thought was really interesting, when you guys were able to connect there. But shooting that project, though, it seems like to me you guys had a very, very positive experience, because even Todd was telling me too that his experience on the set was one of the best experiences he's ever had. But I'm pretty sure you had more or less kind of experienced the same thing as well too, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it's great it's a Will Kaufman film. I mean, honestly, it's like Christmas Day for a child when you're an actor. And, Joe Wag, it means just nothing but good times, good vibes. You're working with great people. I mean, Will's crew, his people he works with, Mark Rutledge, an amazing cinematographer,
Yeah.
another great guy, respect. So you're around people that are going to capture the best of what you can offer, and that is why it's great. I mean, he put some great talent around me, and all those guys are phenomenal. I love there's no egos. I remember a meeting. I had to get through the COVID checkpoint, and then they're all waiting. I could see everyone's just like, I was waiting to go talk to the people. And I was like, fuck, I'm stuck here until this result comes through that I don't have fucking COVID.
Yeah.
So I remember, and then right away, I meet Jaron and Nikoi. Nikoi was replacing Hakeem last
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
They came up to me and right away, like, hey, you want to? They introduced themselves real humbly and like, hey, you want to? Let's go over the scene. It's an 8-page scene. I said, yeah, let's do it. So we're sitting somewhere in New Orleans, just where's the basketball court at the park. We're just sitting there reading lines, just studying it back and forth. And from the get go of being there was great. Getting there was a crazy nightmare, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just a weather issue and Houston and all my other issues with traveling. But the experience on set, the channel, it's one of my highlights of my career. Honestly, that whole experience. Anything Will Kaufman, obviously, Daylight's in. Another one, which was a year-long process of back
Yeah.
and forth for a year for that one. That's why, hence, 10 years ago in August, we were filming that thing, Just Do Me. I remember Will calling me about that. Hey, would you mind wearing a shirt that says Just Do Me? And I said, yeah, man, it's your vision. Let's do it. So that was, I don't know, anything Will Kaufman is a blessing, honestly. There's never a downside from definitely not from an actor's standpoint. So
When
we'll
you
see
worked
what's
on that
happening.
project though, did you I mean, I'm not sure if you got the whole script, but when you read it and or when you were working on it, was it one of those times where you realized that this is gonna be really, really good? Like I have no doubts at all.
The channel.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew from. I mean, just Will Kaufman. I mean, honestly, it's just.
Okay.
What's funny is I got the whole script, and I remember getting to it, and I don't know, did he send me the sides? I can't remember if he sent me the sides or not, or if it was the whole script. But I remember I did have the whole script at one point. And I remember going, for some reason I didn't read the title page, and I was thinking Chad Law wrote it, and then I was like, and Chad's like, no, I didn't write this, and I was like, oh wow, because it seemed like something similar with Chad, but I mean they have their similarity. That's why they collaborate so well and they're close buddies. But yeah, Will can write. He can. He's
Yeah.
not just a good director. He can write, and I love that Edwin Small, the character I played, was one good scene, but it was enough because that would I would do 10 times out of 10. Like I read that, I'd be like, okay. I mean, just happened to be a blessing. It was Will Kaufman. But if it was some maybe unknown director that came to me and was like, I like the material, that would have been to answer a question you asked earlier. I'd consider it because it was so something about reading it. I was just like, man, I envisioned it right away. I was like, okay, here I can see this guy here. And then I asked Will a couple notes because you can take a character any which way you want. But Will gave me a few ingredients, and I was like, okay, I gotcha. And then
Yeah.
that's what we came up with. And and the last second was the glasses on set. He goes, hey, I didn't even know. He when I was in the makeup chair getting the powder on, he's like, hey, I'm gonna put some glasses on you. I said, oh, okay, cool. That was another twist, last second, and we just went with it. And then he'd come up and go, all right, let's. Will's super soft spoken, and he's like, so let's do this. Let's try this little nuance here. And I go, all right, and we go back in, roll another take after camera angle change, and kept playing with it. So, and that's what you got. You got the final cut, which is fun. I'm happy with it. I'm happy to watch it. Okay, yeah, it's a good experience. Definitely positive. Look forward to more of those.
Are you one of those people that when you make a movie, do you go back and revisit your work? Like for example, like The Channel being one of the films, if someone says to you, hey, I'm renting the movie tonight and I want you to come watch it with me, are you comfortable with doing that? Or are you one of those people that once you work on a project, you watch it once, then you move on?
I'd rather not watch it with people. That's for sure.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if I was watching with you, it'd be different because you're in the same game. I mean, I look at you as a peer, and I can
Right.
watch it with peers. If it's like my family or some friends or whatever, I'm like, oh no. Especially my mom. Like my mom's like, it's just like watch it for the story. Don't watch it because of me. Don't point me out. Like so. I watch it by myself. I can't, I can't say there's people say they don't watch their own stuff. I will watch it, but I won't like live it, a million times now.
Okay.
I watched The Channel when it came out, went to the premiere, barely made it to New Orleans. in time. I did catch it, and then I watched it once since you know it was available to rent or buy, and that was it. And I'll maybe another day revisit it. But I enjoy watching, like I said, Exit to Exile. What is it?
Out of Exile.
Out of Exile. Like
Yeah.
I like watching studying. I mean, it's a never ending process to me. Like
Yeah.
there's some actors I know that just love watching their own stuff. There's one particular actor that only watches their own movies and music. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They don't know that other people exist. But it's who's got some talent, but there's a bigger world out there.
Yeah.
But you can live in his own shadow.
Well, you know,
So,
I'm curious about the effects of like watching a film after the fact, because you know I've talked to, like, I talked to a comedian by the name of Camilla, I forget her last name, but she's someone that I was speaking with on the show, where we talked about them, you know, revisiting their work, and she gave me a really unique perspective that I never really considered, and it, so that always, for some reason, that sticks out for me about people looking back at their work, because I think now I've come to a point for myself, and you know, when I put the videos together, I have to watch it, because you know, if there's anything that you need me to cut out, whatever the case, I have to watch it from start to finish. But I've said it before with Natalia, and in my conversation with her, that I've learned for myself that I actually like to watch myself, not because, you know, like, oh my God, you look amazing. It's not, none of that nonsense. It's more about like um it's like I love the reactions that I'm seeing, you know, in this case, if I'm talking to you, if I'm seeing, if that image comes up where you're reacting to something about that, like clicks for me. If I'm asking a question like, well, why did I ask it this way? But I see the reaction to the other person, I'm like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Now I didn't see it at that time. I can see it after the fact. So I've learned a lot from that as well too. But revisiting people's work, in my opinion, it's like I think you said it best. It's like you're studying it. I've watched I remember I saw Out of Exile, I don't know, 15 times or whatever it was. I remember when I
wow.
saw Hell Hath No Fury. Jesse sent me the film a while back, well before it came out, and I remember I literally watched it like 5 times in a row. I'm exaggerating, but it was like 5 times in a row, whatever it was. And then I would watch it again and again and again. And I remember when I talked to Joseph Cannon, who was in the movie, I felt bad for saying this here, because I was like, "Yeah, I saw the movie after we were done conversing on camera." And I was like, "Yeah, I saw this. How many times have you seen the films?" "I've seen it 10 times." Like, man, I haven't seen it once. I was like, "Holy shit! I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to like throw it like that." But like, you know, the opportunity to to watch the film and study it, and then picking things apart that I may have missed at the first, like, something about that to me appeals to me. That you know, when I go back and revisit my work, I do the exact same thing as well too. After a while, it gets a little boring, but you know, I'm sure for yourself, like I don't. I always feel like if an actor goes back and watches the work, there's got to be a really good incentive to do that, whether they hate the work or not. But they can probably pick up something that they may have not noticed before, that they realize, oh, you know what, I actually did that very good. Now I know I can revisit that again. That's always feel like that's the motivating factor behind them for doing that. But again, each of them has their own perspective on that. But I always find that interesting that they don't want to go back and revisit it.
Yeah, some do, some don't. For whatever reason, the reasons are going to vary. But yeah, I mean, maybe you should be directing films. I mean, and I say that as a compliment because
Thanks.
you direct these, you care about the small nuances, and I know you care about that in story. I know you care about it in questions you ask. That's probably why, if I was directing a film, you have to watch it. You're watching every take, numerous. You're going to seconds matter. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
centimeter, whatever it may be. So, I mean, that's probably one of your next ventures is directing a film because, I mean, you're obviously passionate about it and putting these together. You know, not everyone can do it. Not everyone has the patience to do it and then cut to go back and forth to make it as interesting to view. So, I think you have a director's mentality,
Uh,
which is so
I always
maybe
feel like I have a producer mentality than I would a director.
but both. I mean, you like the reactions. I mean, directors can produce. I mean, you're not just a
Yeah.
one-stop shop. You know, I mean, you can do it all. So it's
I appreciate that. That's nice of you to say.
direct edit. I mean, editing. I mean, you obviously know how to edit too.
Yeah.
I will eventually will want to do a whole thing where if I direct it and then sit with a seasoned editor, but have some say on it, and even though they're the editor, but have the final cut. But where I'm not the editor, I won't take a credit for because that's a whole other art form.
Yeah.
But I would love to direct a film. from top to bottom on one of these days. It's just got to be the
What
right one.
what's the biggest for you in this particular field when it comes I'm not talking about being away from your family, but when it comes to, because the question is about sacrifice, but what's the biggest sacrifice you've noticed in one particular field in this industry that you feel like has the most effect on people when it comes to working on a project, whether it be films or television? Like what's the one particular area that you've noticed the most, that when you think of somebody that really gives in a lot, that if you were to say they sacrifice a lot, like you can legit look at them and say they sacrifice everything more so than actors or whatever the case may be? What's the one field that you
Oh,
think initially that
what,
comes to mind
um,
that may be overlooked for you?
yeah, I mean, it varies on what your opportunities come from, I'm sure, because every department's important.
Right.
Everyone's trying to make a name for themselves. It could be from a special effect makeup artist. You know, I mean, I know a lot that are like, I just want to do this for my resume and build a connection. So, I mean, it's just as important as an actor. Um, I think if there's one in particular, to me, the single most important, not that, no, everyone's important, trust me, but probably being a director, because you take time away longer, because you're not just the pre-production, the development, the principal photography, and post-production. Most of the time, you're involved all the way through, and then you're promoting. You know, the whole. You see Jesse Johnson when he's on a project and he's promoting it, and same with
Yeah.
Will Kaufman. I think a director has the longest period of sacrificing time for a particular project, and an actor, we can come and go. Depends on how much study. I wish I could go. I need 3 months to prep for this. You know what I mean? And go, okay,
Yeah.
sometimes I get one day. Yeah, I'm like, okay, get on the freaking plane. And I got to do this crazy ass character. I'm like, well, I don't even know the lines yet, you know? So I wouldn't say it's an actor. I mean, it depends on your longevity. It depends on how much you're passionate about the game. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint, but I'd say from pinpoint one, it's a director. I think would sacrifice the most.
What's a part that you've taken on that, whether whether you were actually happy with or maybe not happy with, that you wish you had more time? Because if you knew that you had more time, you probably would have done it better.
That's a good one. A couple I feel like I didn't want to do. If I had more time, or if I had certain parameters that I could have, not necessarily more time, but didn't have to follow a certain parameters because it was faith based or something, like the day you found me, which I just did a post, shared it because Anna Maria mentioned it today.
Oh, okay.
Um, Maybe that one, and that's not out yet. I mean, I'm not like dissatisfied with what I did, but I figure I tell them as producers to really reach a broader audience, to get their message across that they're trying to reach with their, you know, their style of filmmaking. Let unleash me. You know what I mean? Like I was hindered, and I could have unleashed more big time. And that still was, the points there, but I think it could have been more. I had to follow a certain, it's almost like Hallmarkish, and stuff
Yeah,
that I
I heard
avoid.
about. Yeah.
I don't play that game. I just can't do it. So I mean, I got to play a little bit. I'm happy with it though, so it's not the best answer, but that one, I'm trying to do another one. More time. I want to say the Western, but I haven't seen it, but I felt, I think I had like a week to figure this out, and we were going to shoot this Western, and I develop a thing where I don't make a final decision as a role, like when I'm keyed. I wait. It's just organic. It's not like a routine or anything. But a lot of the times you finalize a character when they say action. You kind of see what's around. You set the you already know what you got. You know
Uh,
what's there. You're prepared for that. But I stay free to where I can play. In the Western, I remember I didn't have the character's voice. Um, Going in, I remember even driving out there with my buddy Jake Jacobson, who's in it. He plays the sheriff. I knew the lines. I envisioned what we saw, but when we started rolling action and Miles is talking to me, and I see what's going on, that is when Billy what came out, and it was such an organic, great feeling. And that's why I was a growth from, like, I definitely grew from that role from before filming it till afterwards. I grew as an actor from that experience, and that's why I like to stay free. Even going to Colorado, doing this pilot that we shot out there for horsepower, waited. I waited. It's just, I think that comes with confidence too, with time, you know. And like, I just, if I had to go somewhere right now, and like someone say, "Hey, my neighbor, because I got this movie to go shoot. Let's go downstairs. Let's film this." I think I'd be free enough to give me a couple takes, and I'll find it, whatever it needs. You have to just kind of let the, I don't know, I can't even put it. It's just a feeling, and you feed off of what's greatness around you. Like I have fed off of all that, the material, the atmosphere. It's all part of it. It's just it's like a dance. You know what I mean? You just get out there, you start feeling the rhythm, and you just unleash.
This is a
So,
two-part question. And you can answer any way you want, but have you, is there something you've worked on that you saw that you, I guess how I want to ask is this, is that you took on a part and you didn't, I'm not gonna say you didn't care for, but you just didn't understand it and you were instructed to do it a certain way. But when you saw, you realized, oh, now it makes sense. Now I get it. Now that I saw how everything turned out, and before I didn't understand it, but I'm glad I did it the way they'd asked me to do it. The second part of the question would be that you did it the way that you thought worked out well. And then when you saw, you're like, Jesus Christ, that was not as good as I thought it was. And that was your choice. That was a decision you made. And you realized that you weren't happy with what came out of it.
um, I want to say no to both,
Okay.
but just because I never tried to do something I didn't understand. Like there's
Okay.
scripts I've read that I just didn't get, and again I say no to it. If I don't understand it, if I can't show up on set with, I mean, not understanding it, I'm just not going to go. Like if I can't get on the same page as the director, which has never happened, I've never said, "Oh no," I never had that. Fortunately, feeling. There's some roles that maybe didn't come out as great as I felt, maybe for whatever reason. I'm trying to think offhand, but there's one in particular, one that I don't want to promote anymore. Um, it's the closest thing to answering where I'd say yes. One role. It's not that I don't like what I did with it. I felt I did what was necessary and what the director wanted, but there's certain aspects to that particular role that I'll just say it's the movie Mad World that I felt were too redundant over and over. And I know he's trying to get the point across. Um, but I felt cinematically, he kept wanting us to use the F word. He wanted to break a record to use the F word most in the movie. I was like, dude, you're so stupid. You're thinking small time. That's what you want to accomplish in the film world. You know what I mean? I hope he's watching this too. His name's Corey, um, Corey Cataldo. Um, because I think he's got a special talent. Like he's got a drive that he wants to make something, but that was what he kept saying. I kept taking out the F word line. He's like, Gary, you didn't say F word 3 times. You skipped it here. I was like, motherfucker, that was what he's worried about. Like literally. And this whole dramatic scene, it could have been even more powerful if I got to eliminate 5 F words. You know what I mean? They come out naturally anyway. Teenagers do say it a lot. I just felt cinematically when I watch it, it takes you out. And some audience people I know, it was strong but you guys use the F word an awful lot. And I was like, yeah. And it is. That's what he's trying to do. That was my only time where I had a gripe with it. I don't mind saying it, but when you're overusing it on purpose, it just sounded stupid. And it took away from what I felt could have been a powerful story and a powerful film. That's the only time I think that was a lesson learned. I was like, shoot, I ain't ever put myself in that position again. So
What's
that's the movie he wants to promote.
what's a project you've worked on that, or sorry, that you didn't work on that we, because you mentioned before that if you don't get it, you're not going to work it. But when let's say you were presented something and you read the script or whatever it was and you didn't get it, but then when you saw, you realized, oh my God, that I didn't see that, but now that I'm watching the picture, it makes sense now.
Hmm. Maybe a comedy. I can't remember the movie. I read
Hmm.
the script. Can't remember. It's only been a comedy script. I remember going, gosh, I just don't understand it. And I watched it and go, oh, wow, that's pretty funny. Like I just didn't translate on the page. But there's not many, honestly.
Okay.
It's a good question. I wish, but I haven't had it's a gift and a curse. I haven't had those opportunities come to me where I'm like paid so much money where I show up and do something. Cause most times you're going to do something you don't want to do because it's just a good
Right.
chunk of change. Like, well, I haven't had that opportunity come to me. And if it does, if I don't get it, dude, I just honestly, I'm not interested. There's a few scripts I got recently. I'm just like, no. And it's not that it's a bad script. I didn't connect with something, and I didn't pick your down because I don't need it. I feel like it's a confidence thing, but I'm like, I really want to identify with it. I want to identify with the director. I want to know who's actually cast it. It doesn't have to be a name or anything, but I want to know that that actor cares as much as I do. Because if they don't, I don't. They're not going to get silence from me. You know what I mean, on set. It's just
Right.
the way it is. Like I don't like the. I mean, like I've been fortunate enough to put myself in a position, even going with everyone I work with, and I can say the last. I mean, almost every project. It's only in the beginning. Um, have all been passionate actors, producers, cinematographers, crew people, special effects, everybody. Like yourself, I've come in contact with you. You're obviously passionate about your show and film and connecting people. That's why we connect. If you're not on that page, you get very, very little time from me. On set, off set, it don't matter. That's
What
how it'll be.
have you? Is there something that you have watched? I'm sure it may be not a fair question to ask because I think almost every artist would probably go through this here. But is there something you have watched and you realize that, man, because you talked before about Out of Exile with Cal Henry's character, where he played the brother, and you saw that role, and you're like, that role I would have loved to have played. Like that's a great role, and you
Consolidating over its bill. I
right,
mean,
right,
it's
but
a great role.
but
Anything. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of roles, man. I watch in certain movies. There's and in no way do I think I do it better. Like I'm just fan of these guys. These guys are inspiring me. I don't know who that Kyle guy was, but now if I see him again, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch what he does. Anything Ben Foster does, I'm just
yeah,
like Ben Foster. He's just a scene stealer. Um, there's a couple semi. I mean, there are some roles that have some bigger names. I don't want to say not that the guys are bad. They're amazing actors. Sometimes they miscast. They take a role, probably a check, where I felt I could have done it just as better. The one thing I want to never do is put myself in a role. Like I could easily play a role. I'm producing this film next month in Oregon. I could easily take the lead role. They want me to play it. I don't want to play it because I don't feel, like I said, I feel like I'm too old for the role and all. And I could play younger than I am, but I just feel like in my heart, in the end, it's not the right role. And I see some roles. There's a few actors that are kind of on the meeker side. I'm not like a big guy, but I'm not a little guy, and I have a stronger voice. There's sometimes I watch something, I'm like, I just would have had that role. I felt like there's only a few, but there's sometimes that does happen. But not many. There's a lot of times I'm just like, damn, I'm inspired. Yeah, most of the time that's the thing. And these guys want me to. I raise my game. That's why I'm always watching. I'm always studying like you. I mean, I watch. I mean, after I hang up with you, I'll probably go get a smoothie, come home
yeah.
and pop on some. I got my freaking Spectrum, my internet
Watch a
Wi-Fi
movie.
was not working good. Yeah, like if you ever see something that's good, send me a message. Say, dude, check this movie out. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm always like wary on like what to watch, and I never would have saw that Exile Out of Exile if you didn't post it. Honestly, I put it right in my queue, and then I think I was following that director anyway. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I followed him because of your post, your promotion of him, and it put him on the radar. So now he's on my radar. And that's what all of us, if everyone could do that, most people don't though, man. Like
Yeah.
I know people that only promote their own crap, let alone promote their buddy's stuff. I'll never be too proud, too big, too cool to promote anyone's stuff. If I like you, you're cool. I'm going to promote your stuff. Period. You can not like. I don't give a shit. I'll still promote it. But
Where
yeah, that. Go ahead.
I'm curious about something about yourself because I'm not sure if we talked about this before. So if I ask this question before, I'm forgiven because I want to. There's something about you that is specifically I want you to share with me about because you know one of the things that I really do appreciate about when I came across yourself and then having to meet with other people that know you as well, and virtually everybody had the exact same thing about you, where they really liked you as a person, and they love working with you as well too. But or wanted to work with you as well, I should say. But for you though, like there's a part of me that's always very fascinated with the part of yourself where you are looking out for who else is out there, and even though you have no connection with the person that the film that you're watching, or the show that you're watching, you say you should watch this movie. This movie is really good. Or this show is very good. Or this actor is amazing, but you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And being in this industry, I'm sure you've met a very few people, quite a few people that have been very selfish in a sense where, like, well, if I'm not in it, I'm not going to promote it. Or if you want me to promote it, you got to pay me or whatever. It's a very selfish industry because it's a very destructive industry as well, which is why I think, I said before that this industry is not for the faint of heart. So if you really want to do it, you're going to do it no matter what. And if you're not going to get rich and famous and you do it because you love it, you'll do it no matter what.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, being in an industry where, you have to have a brand in some way or shape or form to have people want to be invested to work with you, and let alone have people want to watch the movies that you're in. Where do you think you've been able to how do you think you've been able to maintain that, not lose sight of that? Because you talked before about getting jobs that help you keep yourself grounded, but I'm actually curious if something else as well too that has helped you along the way that keeps you from more or less losing it, if you will, losing sight of reality, if you will, about the people that you work with here, and actually showing them respect by giving them respect, and then when you speak with them, that they know that you're being authentic about it. Because I've been very fortunate to talk with, guys like yourself, Lewis, Jonathan, and everyone has always been nice. But that's the one thing I remember the most. I could say that their movies are great, but I always tell everybody is, if I can't connect with you outside of your work, I probably won't talk to you. Not to make myself seem like I'm like prestigious. I'm not, but there is something more to me that I think about, because I can tell my friends and my family. Like, I've talked to Gary, but Gary's a great guy. He's a really, really nice guy. Well, you should also watch his movie too. Lewis is a great guy, really nice guy, and you should watch his movie. That would be the first thing I would point out. But again, my question to you, because I know I'm going off a tangent here, but is, where do you think you maintain that, and how you've been able to maintain that for yourself? Because in this industry, it's not something I've noticed that's very, very easy to maintain. And yet there are people out there such as yourself that have been able to maintain that and keep that composure about themselves.
Dude, honestly, I just think it's who you are. It's that simple. It's not a complicated thing. I think some people are just selfish. Their egos are so freaking big that they can't. I have my ego. I don't even know if it exists or if it is. Like, I am all about love. And like I said, anyone that works with me from the time even when I was a child, like, I would rather lose a game to have that person feel good. I don't care. To me, winning is to share success and happiness and love with everybody. Period. That's how my blood flows. I can't, I don't force it. It just happens. So I'm just being myself, and nothing will change that. No one's going to taint me. And the more success I have, the easier it is to even do, because I promote something and then they're like, whoa, hey, they know who I am. Like, I've had it happen a few times. I'm like, wow. And they're like, we should collaborate. I was like, yeah, we should, like, it's getting funner, because of the fact that I can just reach out to a lot of these people that are peers, and I look at them as peers. I treat them as peers, and when they look at me back as a peer, that's the ultimate compliment. But it's nothing's going to change that, man. Like, it's who I am, and I think that people don't do it. That's who they are. I mean, actions speak volumes, and the
Yeah.
lack of action speaks volumes too. And I tell
Yeah.
everyone, it's not sometimes what you do; it's what you don't do that can defy you as well. Um, I see it, man. There's very, very few that promote others, or there's some people who don't even want to like, they don't want to comment. I don't know what it is. They sit at home and they're bitter, they're jealous, whatever it may be. I wish them well, whoever these people are. I know some,
Mm.
but I still, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person sometimes, but there's a lot. It's not just the film industry. This is any industry. I hear this from stories of everyone. This person didn't want to put in a good work because you might get a promotion above this person. And this happens in so many fields. It's just
Yeah.
human nature. There's givers. There's people that take. I'm an absolute giver. I'll give you my heart and soul, in anything that I do. Period. That's just, I don't know how to hold back. That's why I don't like certain roles, or I got hindered a little bit, or in the day you found me. Not saying the message isn't put across, but I don't. It took a lot more for me to hold back than it did to give it all. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And there's a lot that I gave, and that was a tough 6 day shoot. We crammed it in, but I think that the world, you find each other, you find your people. and people come, people go. The people that stay, those are your people. It's just the way it is. Doesn't mean if they go, doesn't mean they're bad, or just sometimes people got different motivations at different times. I've dealt with a million people in my whole life. There's only a couple people I probably would never deal with again. I don't wish them, and I wish them well, but they won't be sitting at my table. You know what I mean? They had their chance. But other than that, dude, like everyone comes and goes. There might be someone I didn't talk to for 10 years. I see him again. I'm like, hey, what's up? It's all good. You know what I mean? It's just, that's who I am. Some people are bitter. Some people are small minded. Some people have gigantic egos.
Yeah.
One particular we both know. And they only deal with themselves. Doesn't mean they're a bad person, but I don't know. I just choose to, I don't know. Like I just choose to support people, man. Like there's a million of me out there. There's a million of guys that are like me, and not just maybe not in the film industry, but they're in other industries. I find them. I come across them. And people are like in every industry. I know so many people that are just, I feel like I can go into any state and have some really cool people that I know that maybe they own a restaurant, maybe they own a hotel, they own a boat or whatever. I know so many, they're like, hey, Gary, you're in town. And I might have met them one time. Well, it's a lifetime impact that I have and they've had with me. And if I'm ever known for one thing, if it's being a kind, honest person, then I can live with that. Like, you know, I don't care if they like me as an actor or whatever. It doesn't change my process whatsoever. But there's no one that can honestly say I'm an ass. If they do, they earned it. You know what I mean? Flat out, like no joke.
Would you say that you're happier now with yourself? And I'm not talking professionally. I'm just about in general.
In every way possible, 100%.
Okay.
Every way possible. My personal life, I can't complain. My career is definitely on a better trajectory. As I'm sure you can see.
Yeah.
Since I've known you, it's gotten better. You've been, you know, it's just a little bit better. I feel like I'm in more control, and not that I want to control things, but I feel like I have a better grasp of my life, me as a person, onset, offset, everything. There's certain things I wish I can get better in, you know, but there's a process. I'm always trying to improve. So,
do you think that if when you first started in this situation in the very beginning of your career, with the opportunities you're getting now for yourself, where people are looking out for you, looking out to you, say, hey, or reaching out to them to say, we want you for this part, do you think you would have handled yourself differently than you are now at that beginning part of the career?
fair question. Maybe. It's honest answer is maybe. Because I wouldn't have been going in as poised and confident back then as I am now.
Right.
But I know, and this has always been since day one, even when I was 8 years old doing a play, and I was scared to death on that stage in front of whatever 400 some people. As soon as we say action, I come to life. Something happens where I can shut it off, and nothing else matters. The cameras don't exist, and I've always been able to do it, no matter what. Now it's just second nature. It's like just breathing. It's like some things I can do in my sleep, I feel like. I mean, something that I feel like I do. When my wife will wake up, I'm just sitting up at 4 a.m. staring at the wall, like sitting, not in like creepy way, but like my mind is just constantly thinking about a character. And this is the first time. It's great. I'm glad we scheduled it this week, because if it would have been a week before, I wouldn't have been as free. Right now, I'm not studying anything at the moment. It's a beautiful thing. This past week, I came home relaxed. I was bad for a couple of days after Denver or Cortez, and just had a headache. I was freaking vertigo going on. I was really dizzy for a few days. Now I'm just like, I'm just watching movies. I'm just getting smoothies. I just literally went to the store before. I was like, I'm just living kind of like nothing at the moment, because next week or something's going to crack down again. And I'll be back to focusing and still be fun. But this was the perfect week this year for me to have an interview and talk with you just one-on-one. And because I feel good, man. I do. I feel good about everything.
When you're working on projects though now, I guess the question I want to ask is that is the does your, like, so kind of going back to the question that I just asked you now, where if you're being sought after and looking for into being given these opportunities, and I asked you before about, do you think you would handle it as well as you are doing it now? And you said maybe, but do you think that your excitement level would have been just the same if, because, so for example, like, I'm not sure what your mindset was at the time. If you're looking at, I want to work on big projects, but if it's all indie stuff, I'm wondering if your mindset is that, will I still be excited just as excited as I would be for a major studio, because these are projects that probably not going to get a lot of attention, but they're opportunities, and I get to work with these directors and I get to work with these writers that I'm just hearing for the first time or I've heard about before, but they haven't done anything big. I'm just curious about what your excitement level would have been at that time. As you're experiencing for yourself, where you understand that working with these actors, directors, writers, producers, that you see the potential because you've seen their work, but in the beginning in your career, you may not have the same lenses there. But I'm curious to see if you would have the same more or less approach, or is it just more like a job's a job?
Never a job's a job for me, but it's different. Excitement might be the wrong word. Definitely be more excited now on certain levels because I don't think I understood it back then as much.
Hmm.
I was excited to work because there was something inside me I didn't fully understand that I needed to let out. And that's like a snake shedding skin. That is me doing a role. It's the only thing that feels like that's my heroin. I don't do drugs or anything,
Hmm.
but being on set in between action and cut is like where I thrive. Even developing the character, even just like sitting at home studying. So now it's more of like a formulated thing where I just sit more with ease in it. Before it might have been some anticipation that might have seemed more exciting, but it was more of an ignorance level. In my personal life, it was more like as soon as I was gone, it was chaotic. Like I was drama here, drama there. Now it's like I can go to set. There's no drama, man. Like I'm not. My phone's not talking crap to me with some random people or whatever. Like it's I don't, you know what I mean? You
Yeah, I
get
know what you're
like
saying.
an
Yeah,
insecure girlfriend or something that's blowing
yeah,
you up. It's like, yo, you don't now you're gonna be insecure because you're acting like this. You know what I mean? Like for no reason. Yeah, I dealt with that for a long time.
yeah.
So I have nothing. So I don't know if I'm answering the question properly, but it's just it is a different time. It is a different same mentality. Um, I was always excited then. I just maybe it was lack of understanding. But everything's better now. Everything's better from every aspect. I feel more focused um, and mature. And I'm playing roles I really want to play. That's the
Right.
thing. Before I was kind of like, I mean, I was excited. There's most things that I like to play. But there's things I missed out on that I didn't get the opportunity, or I got chose over by some big name or something. And I'm like, now those roles I'm closer to, or people might just offer it to me. And I don't have, like I said, you mentioned earlier, I don't have a rep. I haven't had a manager or agent in like 10 years. And I'm not saying I wouldn't want one, but if I need one that can do more for me than I can do for myself. And the
Right.
only ones that can do that are the big top dogs. And you don't call them, they call you.
Right.
So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and maybe one will reach out, and maybe I won't even want to deal with them because there's always political stuff. I've had some close calls with some of these big, firms at one point, and it wasn't what I really. The personal meetings weren't that great. Let's put it that way. There was
Yeah.
a thing it's like that for all of them, but particular agents or whatever I dealt with were trying to do other things that were not professionals. But that way, whole Me Too campaign.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. I'm
I
aware.
go on and on. Trust me. So there's a few of those people that I'm just like, man, dude, you're barking up the wrong tree. So I don't know, but I'm excited about the future nonetheless.
Do you think that with your career right now, because it's interesting that you've talked about how things are going well for you, but because things are going very well for you now, you're much happier now. But do you have any regrets at all with regards to the experiences you've had gone through that you wished you? I'm not saying you wish you could handle better, because I'm sure there's a lot that you could wish you handled better, but I'm talking about that if you could go back and fix something, do you think that would alter the way things are for you now? That if you go back to fix it, that made the way things are going for you right now, you wouldn't have turned out as the way where you are at your life right now. Because I'm not gonna say that for myself, I don't have regrets, but I feel like those experiences made me who I am, and because I've allowed to myself to take the time to reflect on those things, that my perspective on myself and the various other things I've gone through has changed a lot for me. But to say that I've regretted it, I'm not sure if that's a fair thing to say, because if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be in this position now. But I'm curious for you if that's something that you think about, if you have any regrets, and if you did, do you think that that would have made any better for you now because things are going well for you at this point?
No, I mean, I've thought about this. I've talked to my family about this too. And there's obviously certain things I wish that were different in my life,
Right.
but I can't say I regret it because it wasn't like I was doing things to cause things. Other people made decisions as well. It always takes two to tango, or three or four, however it may work out. Um, and there's things I could definitely do better coming towards the future with the way certain relationships are. But nonetheless, I mean, yeah, like you said, it's all about the journey and the people and what you become along the way. And life's not what happens to you. Like, yeah, it's like they're saying, life's not what happens to you; it's how you deal with what happens to you. Um, I've I've been through the ringer on a lot of things with personal relationships, and but I know that my intentions were always good and pure when I dealt with certain individuals, and if and I stayed on my path, I stayed on this course that I'm still on, and I will continue to go on. If those people are still in my life or whatever, maybe the relationship's different, they're still in my life, then that's cool. And those that aren't, they chose a different path. Like I said, the only thing I wish I had different was I wish I had my kids around me more. Um, but I can't change that. You know what I mean? Like that is
Right.
what it is. But I have a great relationship with two of them. One of them is we're getting there. So, and that's what I'm thankful for. And now it's up to me to now it's in my hands to make it better, which I feel I'm confident will because I now have some pulling it. Before it was like no, you know what I mean. So due
Yeah.
to other issues that I'll leave out, but
Right.
other than that, man, I'm full steam ahead. I have no regrets, and only want to if I believe most things can be mended, most things can be fixed. Uh, so most things. So and it's all about it's not about yesterday, it's about tomorrow and today and tomorrow and wherever you want to take it. So
Is there a project that you worked on, whether it be a role or an actual production itself, that you taken on that actually helped you as a person? Like when you not that it was the intention, but when once you went through with it, that you learned a lot about some skills you've developed along the way that made you realize, I could do this differently now in this area of my life because of this experience I've went through or the character that I happen to play. Because I'm always curious if you ever with actors that when they take on a project that actually changed them and more or less into a better person, if you will.
yeah, I try to grow from all of them. That's what motivates me to go through the process. I mean, go through like this. I mean, it's not easy necessarily to live a lifestyle of an actor. You know, like there's a lot of people that claim it and do it. They don't do anything. I see it left and right just because they got their SAG card. It's just fun to me. But to be a full fledged, in any field you do, you're sacrificing things. But I'm what's it called? The change to grow. There's a I've grown from all of them. I guess I think I've told you before, like Lost in the Crowd. That was a
Right.
big growth for me. I think I mean, as an actor, but I mean, as a man too, but as an actor especially. But really, where it's made me grow even outside of just artistically. I want to say even the one I had to hinder myself a little bit, the one that hit me, what's it called? The Day You Found Me. It's not out yet. I have like 5 films supposed to release. That one hit me because it's so opposite of what I would want to do, but I feel like I've been accused of. So it hit me really hard when I read the script. I said no to it a few times, and then it finally hit me back. I said, you know what? I can't sleep. I got to do this role. I wish I didn't have the full restraints on it that I had, but that one triggered something in me that makes me want to even, I don't know, even just be better. I really did. Something about it. I was just, whenever that comes out, Yeah. I heard Sony was putting it out, and it's been MIA since. I don't know what happened. That's been a year from now, I think, almost a year. Yeah, September 29th, I went to premiere last year. So,
Wow.
but who knows, man? I don't know if they know what they're doing or not, which is why I don't, I just leave that alone. But
You
that
know,
one,
well,
yeah.
what's interesting for me though is that and I'm trying to be very careful how I can ask this question because and I'm not asking you to delve into India specifically, but I'm just curious about how, because this particular lifestyle when it comes to the film industry, it's I've said it before, and various people I've talked to as well too, they can obviously relate to this here, but it's not I it's this is not an industry for the faint of heart. And Will Kaufman said it best too, like this is an endurance. You have to grind through this here. And and I respect the people like yourself, Lewis, and all these other people that have been in this industry for years, some decades. And like I in the beginning for myself, when I grew up watching movies, I always thought of the star power as like the reasons for why you want to be an actor, because you want the adulation, all this other stuff. And then obviously in time that's changed for me. But when you start listening to stories about how actors and directors are going through their careers, then you learn after the fact about the effects it had in their personal lives and the effects that it had on the relationships. And that or you hear stories where I'm going to use Leonardo DiCaprio as an example, like where you hear these stories about him where um the jokes that are thrown about him, like he's dating women that are younger than him, and after they hit a certain age, he's like, all right, well, now you're done, I'm moving on to the next one. Like there's a certain like aura about them that you hear. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But when I'm pointing out that like it seems like there's an isolation when it comes to certain people that reach a certain stature, where like they've hit this level and they've been able to maintain that, but now that's all they know, and there's almost like a disconnect in a lot of ways. But then when you hear stories like to some degree you shared here, but and some other people that I've been able to speak with in private, they've talked about their personal lives where they shared that how certain things affect them directly, or certain projects they've worked on, how it affected them directly because of someone they've worked with. They've had a great experience beforehand. They didn't had a terrible one after the fact, or they worked on a project that just did not go well for them. And then when they came home, things have just gotten worse for them in some way or shape or form. But you don't hear those stories. And to me, that's very interesting because then they go back to work the next day. Like Francis Ford Coppola as a huge example of that, where I think it was his son Roman who died in a boating accident, and in the next day he literally had to go work on the set for the movie he was working on right after the day his son died.
Yeah.
And there's something about that particular mindset of a filmmaker that you have a personal tragedy here, you have to go back to work the next day. And Ridley Scott, whose brother, had we all know the story, his brother had killed him, so he had literally leave the set on the film he was working. I think it was a counselor, left the set, deal with the personal matter, and then come right back to work after whatever amount of time he had time off there. And yet there's a certain level of attention that I don't think people understand, and the effects that this industry may have on their personal lives, or the effects that it has on their career because of their personal life, and yet they're still able to maintain moving forward despite the hurdles they're dealing with here. So my question to you is that because you've had a lot of highs and lows, and I'm in respects to your career, you've had some really good momentum. Sometimes you've had some dry spells, and now things are going pretty well for you. But when you having those personal struggles in your own life, did it ever feel like, despite some momentum you've got in your career, was it even worth it? And if so, were you glad that you stuck with it? Because obviously things have turned out well for you now, but at certain points, did you ever feel like that this stuff is hurting me over here? The things I'm dealing with over here is starting to affect me in my professional life. Is this even worth it now? Because I'm not getting any enjoyment out of it.
I mean, I think if you would ask me that question 3 different times in 3 different time frames in my life, I would have answered it differently. I probably would have said, no, it's not worth it at certain times. But in hindsight, weathering all the storms on the same journey and path that I've been on, I look back and say, it's like it is worth it, because it's the same thing with like letting things affect you. It'd be different if if I made some horrible decisions to like where I've affected and hurt people. I didn't do that. So if people like with my kid situation or family situation, if that would have been um, certain things affected where time, like I would have been, no, it's not worth it. Like after I did Monumental, you think, oh, it would have been such a good praise because it's so hard to make your independent film. But
Yeah.
then it's like I have a woman making it way more difficult in my personal life at the time. I'm like, why would you, instead of root me on, you talk about being this thing. I was a man of my word. I'm sorry, you weren't, person of your word. You know what I mean? You can go on with your bad self. You know what I mean? It's kind of how I feel like, and if at the time I let it bother me, that's why I take gaps. The gaps in between are me going, damn, you know what? I need to get my personal life in a personal, in a solid situation. Now I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm full steam ahead, film. If I do a gap in between, it's because there's just nothing going on interesting for me. No good offers, or I'm just not interested one way or the other. Other than that, my focus is that. So, in hindsight, um, I forgot what the whole part of it was, but I know it's not gonna. No, no, I'm not letting no regrets on it really. You know what I mean? Like you were
Mhm.
saying, it affects certain things affect your life. Um, you had asked me that in 2013, 10 years ago, after Daylight's In. I might have said, "Damn, none of this is worth it." But 2023 is definitely worth it. And it just
Yeah.
only the strong survive, man. It really is because you have to weather the storm. Some people are weak; they give up. I mean, whatever industry you're in, there's people that just find one way to not appreciate their life. And it's tough. I don't think it's just tough being an actor. I think it's tough in just daily life. I mean, we're not asked to be born, and that's why I'm kind to everyone. I try to be
Yeah.
as kind to anyone unless you're a complete ass. But I think any industry you're in, it's not easy. You got to deal with people in bad moods. If everyone can just weather the storm and live to fight another day, you realize that it could be worth it. As long as you make good decisions. You make a bad decision, you're killing someone or raping someone, look, you screwed up. I have no empathy for you. But if you're a person that's trying to find their way and just you just got to keep coming, and you'll overcome it. It takes time. Time heals most wounds, at least for the most part, and just keep coming, man. If you ask me 10 years from now, we'll see where I'm at, but I'm sure I'll be same thing, same answer because I've weathered the storm, man. 10 years ago, I was down and out. 2000, and then right after Purgatory Road, I was down and out. It was like a 4 or 5 year and hit down again where I wanted no part of nothing. And so those two particular times, I would have said, no, this ain't fucking worth it. Nothing. Like, screw it. I'm done. Disappearing. I'm going to go work a regular job in the mountains and hide. I mean, I've thought that many times, but
Mhm.
now it's, like I said, I feel like film found me. Like as much as I try to walk away from it, then my phone rings. Now I don't hide from it. Now I'm like embracing it. I'm like, yo, like I'm available. That's where it's at, and I think the universe is responding to that.
Do you think that, when you, because you talked about how you try to hide from it or run away from it at certain points, and now that you're embracing it more, um if if it wasn't, let's say you just had a track record of like just things not working out, films are not very good in the beginning of your career, do you think that you would have, if it just was one thing after another that just was not working out for you to the point where you just saw no potential in making it more, I'm making it in terms of like, having a somewhat of a career out of it. If you didn't see that at all happening for yourself, do you think that you would have given up a long time ago?
Maybe, but I think because I think every actor or artist will go through it, but it's my perseverance that stayed around for that next gig to keep you going, to keep you afloat. It's like just enough. It's like the hit. It keeps you going, even if it's one every 3 years. I battle it. There's times, like I said, it's happened where I step aside and I go, no, I don't want to do this. But I had just enough perseverance internally to reach out and grab for something else that might be there, film related or series related. And then that just gets you enough. It's like a vampire. You need that blood. That's it. You know what I mean? Like I got just enough and I'm rejuvenated right now. I feel like a Dracula. feel good, you know, and I'm well fed. So, but there's
A
times
great
when you just,
analogy.
you know what I mean? It's the only way I can picture it because it's just, that's what it feels like. Because you feel like there's parts you feel like you're weathering away, you're dying. And when you're dying internally, you don't lack that, you don't have that confidence. And I've grown to accept what roles I want to do and what I don't fit, what I can play. Like I'm okay with whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like I'm never trying to do something that I'm not going to play. Like I know I'm not going to play Superman, but I can play someone that gives them one hell of a fight, and that is I'm okay with that. And whatever role, whatever situation, like that's the thing. A lot of people don't have that acceptance. Yeah, I don't know. I just enjoy life, honestly. Like, but you have to. You also, it's not just my choice, but it's who you put around you. Like
Right.
I choose to only deal with certain friends that are only going to be a certain way because you deal with negative Nancy's, you're a product of your environment. I'm smart enough now to where I don't have that. Like I have an amazing woman in my life that makes my life 1,000 times better. Um, so that's a huge impact. Before I had people that just drain me, that want everything from me, but give me nothing in return. That I was, close with in that level. That doesn't happen no more. So and that's just one thing I've fixed amongst many other issues, and I'll still continue to try to fix whatever problem comes. But just stay the course, man. That's what it's all about. Only the strong survive in any industry. Your industry, I mean, we're in the same industry, but you're I think building momentum. You're going to be a person like I can see you doing like Joe Rogan style stuff. You know what I mean? At that level where you're getting millions of fucking views and people are like, this is a conversation I want to hear.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
And
appreciate
then
that.
and I can see you go, maybe you want to direct a film or edit, produce, whatever. I can see you doing that because you're passionate and whatever field you choose to go in as well as this, I think you'll be successful in because it's your nature, it's who you are. It's the same with me. I feel like you're never going to be the guy that's going to try to hinder someone else to benefit yourself. Like I don't think that you're that guy. I'm definitely not that guy. And so it's just find like-minded people, man.
There's something for some reason it just dawned on me to bring this up because I'm not particularly passionate about this field at all. This interest you have. We briefly talked about it before for a little bit in our last conversation here on the show. Because you talked about your passion for filmmaking, but I wanted to move in another passion you have, which is motorcycles, because there was a conversation you and I had about this here where you post on social media of the various bikes you have, and the rides you go on. I mean, you talked about you rode with Scoot Maneri not too long. Well, at least in that conversation, prior to our conversation, where I should say that you got to ride with him. He was trying to get something checked out, and you guys were racing your way through
Clutch.
to yeah. So
yeah,
what's interesting for me about that is because there's you I always find it fascinating when someone they're really passionate about one thing and they stick with it, and then they have another passion, in this case with motorcycles. And I always wonder, does that supplement with what, like, since you're very passionate about that, does that in some way, shape, or form help supplement with what you do in acting or in the film industry in general? Because I always wonder if that two different set of passions are coincide with each other, where that there may be something that you do in here helps in this area, or whatever you do in this area helps in this particular area. Because like I love movies, but I love doing this too because I get to talk to people in the industry, but I also get to talk with other people that supplement some things that really keeps me intrigued that I can use in a conversation, in this case, such as yourself, whoever else I'm going to talk to. And I always find a way to integrate that because that makes me very excited, but two completely different set of fields, if that makes any sense. But I'm curious about if that has any way, shape, or form filtered into one field into the other that made you, I don't know, I don't know if it's a good question to ask, but it made you more excited about each of the respective passions you have.
it's a good question. I get what you're saying because they're two different mediums. Uh, I just think it comes in time. Like as you get older, you find different things you're interested in, and also I'm always trying to overcome fears. I was always afraid of motorcycles. I'd hear them, I'd
Interesting.
fear them, So
And you love it now.
riding them, it was like overcoming a fear. It's just growth as a human, and so I don't ride as much as I used to, just as busy and stuff like that. It's there's nothing really like it though. Throttle therapy. You get on the motorcycle. I love just starting it, hearing it, smelling it. It is something that is it's therapeutic, really. And then just the culture of it. With some, not everyone. I mean, there's bozos in every industry you're in, but
Yeah.
that was something that's also like when you put the helmet on, you're escaping, you're free. There's something about it. So I think that is why I kind of liked it. It was scary too. I mean, when you're scary, I mean, at first, and then you get used to it, but it was overcoming a fear. So
Well, what made you actually want to do that though, to take that attempt to try that? Because if you were so scared of it,
dude, I was going through some depression, man. Like at the
okay.
end of the day, I was barely leaving my room, and that's why I got that tattoo. I remember my friend Matt Martin had called me and goes, "Hey, I got a bike. I want to come over." And I was like, "Huh?" So I come over. I remember my front window was right by the sidewalk at this my other place, and all of a sudden I hear room room roll up. I thought he was coming up on a mountain bike, dude. I didn't think motorcycle at all. And I'm like, what the hell is this? He pulls up in this Harley, and I'm like, dang, dude, like you safe to ride? 'Cause I didn't know he rode. He rode dirt bikes, but street was another ball game. And then he's like riding around for a little bit, and then I remember him like, "Ooh, let's ride, let's ride." I was like, I don't know, man. I never rode a bike in my life, you know. So this is all since Purgatory Road. So it's fairly, last 6, 7 years, 7 years, and yeah, because Finley's 7 now. Damn. So ever since she's been alive, and then I remember I didn't want to ride his bike. I thought I'd drop it. So I go, let me just buy some used cheap thing in case I drop it, whatever. And I remember
Mhm.
just learning it. I got it pretty quick, and I was like, ooh. And I was nervous of it, but I remember staring at the bike. I'm like, okay, and I'm free by myself, and I just want to ride. I wouldn't leave the neighborhood for a little bit. I was like, I'm gonna stay in this neighborhood, even though it's kind of dangerous to ride with these cars and these kids everywhere. So, but eventually, dude, and then I like 4 months later, I got on a super bike, and I was like, ooh. I remember when I was on for like 10 minutes, and I had the light turn green, and I lit it up. I hit about 85 within, I don't know, seconds. And I was like, wow, dude, that changed my world. It was like another level. It was like a level up, basically. And if you're in a video game, like, whoop, and you're ding.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And I immediately was like, I got to give me one of these. So we did. I got one, and uh, it just calmed. Something about it calmed me. It got me through. It's like the Eminem says, you had to go to that place to get to this one. Um, that was a place I needed to go to get to that place, and that the motorcycle got me through to where I'm at right now. Even
Interesting.
I don't even necessarily need to ride. I don't have the necessary desire to go ride as much as I did, and as I have other priorities and stuff like that. But nonetheless, like I still rock my rider culture, my hat and all that stuff. So I had a shirt on yesterday, so it's definitely something that meant a lot to me. It still does, but it's not as prevalent in my life right now at the moment. But got me to where I'm at right now for sure.
So if your friend had never called you about that, you probably would have never been on the bike to this day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And my friend Matt, dude, he's like my brother. I've known him 30 years about. He's the one he knew. It's like he knew something was down. He always reaches out. How you doing? I was just with him the last couple of days, and we went to go just pick up, do some random errands. Um, yeah, he's a huge impact in my life. Like he's a good guy. I've never had a biological brother in my life. I have a sister who's great too, but he was a guy that still to this day is genuinely cares about my well-being. Always has since like 7th, 8th grade. So he's just a good dude. So I only surround myself by people that have my best interest as well as I have their best interest. So
Right.
that's it. And that's what gets you through those times, man. Like some people don't have it, unfortunately. Some people just don't have
Yeah.
that in their life. My greatest blessings are the great people in my life. I always tell that to people. Even in the film industry, that's what's kept me going is the connections I've made. The Will Kaufman, the Chad Law. I can't even say the Will Kaufman because there's only one Will Kaufman. There's only one Chad Law. There's only one Jesse Johnson. Um, and so forth. Peter Dobson, Louis Mandalore, and go on and on. These guys are my bros. Hakeem, K. Kazim. I mean, these guys are always reaching out to me. I talk to them all the time. How you doing? How you doing, G? How you doing, brother? Like Hakeem called me from South Africa last week, like just to check in randomly every month or so. It's like, how's your family? How's your ladies? How's good, good, good. It's just an always. I have constant blood. I'm supposed to meet Louis maybe later today or tomorrow, so I'm waiting for him to send me. I have it on Do Not Disturb right now because it's fucking be vibrating, So,
Yeah.
so it's, but they're always reaching out, and that's what life's all about. And as you get older, you realize that. And I've always been aware. When I was in high school, I didn't play those games. I didn't go to. I went to some parties, but I never got involved, man. Like I always luckily had a good conscience. I'm so happy that my son Kurt has got a very good head on his shoulders. When I met his friends, and I'm like, wow, these guys are good dudes. He's not hanging out with hoodlums that are up to no good. They all have like ambition and want to do things, and that's that thing is you'll think about as a parent, like you worry about.
Yeah.
You're always going to worry, but I'm not worried about who his friends are, and that's what I always cared about. Who's around me. If you're a douche, even if you did nothing to me, you don't have to do anything directly. If I know you're disrespecting other people, I will not deal with you. I've cut off more. No one's really even done anything to me. There's a few people I don't talk to just because they're racist idiots or whatever, and or ripping people off and they think it's funny. I
Yeah.
don't play that game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you find it easier now for you to say no to a lot of things that probably back then you would have been a lot more difficult for you to say no to?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Say no quite easily now. But before I probably would have done. Yeah.
Is there something
Yeah.
you said no to that you regret though? It doesn't have to be a project. It can be just anything in general that you realize, I should have said no. That I should have said yes, and it would have been interesting how things have turned out.
Huh, maybe. I think that's a good question though. Makes me think. Oh, what did I pass up on? Maybe a couple. Well, there's a series I walked away from back in the day. I had contracted for. I forgot the name of the show. Signed contract. Walked away from it because I was going through some shit. Oops. After Purgatory Road, and good pay, good opportunities, network, studio. I forgot they changed the name. I want to say it was Outlander or something.
The action show?
It was, yeah. It was like I think it was what it turned into. If I remember, it was a Warner Brothers
Interesting.
backlot. Yeah, I walked away from it because I couldn't stand it. I couldn't focus on anything. Honestly, I just never. I could not focus when I was at the read. I couldn't focus when I was inside the studio, the sound stage for the meetings. I just needed to be somewhere else. So that's when I stepped aside for a good year or two. And then Hollow Point, they called me, and I was like, no, I don't know. I'm gonna sit at the beach still. So now I am just gotta stay the course, man. Keep learning and growing. I have so much more to learn, so much more to grow, and always stay humble. That's the key. Unlike one person we know, like, throw it.
It's funny. It's funny now because when I think about the conversations I've had, and I've not too long ago I hit episode 100, and it was because I had my 50 episode with Natalia, and then I had after that conversation with Natalia, which is one of my favorite conversations I've ever had, and I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm nearing 100, but I will love for you to be my 100th guest because I love our conversation, and you by chance happened my 50th guest, so I thought it'd be cool for you to be my 100th guest, and thankfully she was available to do so.
Yeah.
And I love that conversation as well too. But the idea that I got to episode 100, it was like such a far fetched idea that was just more like, I want to do this here, and we'll see what happens. And I'll be frank, the conversations that I've had with the various people I had on the show has changed my life, in some way or shape or form. Some conversations had much more impact on me than others, or sometimes maybe not the conversation, but the person themselves had an impact on me in some way, shape, or form. And I can truthfully say that you are one of those people that have a major impact in my life because, from the conversation that we had at that time and since that point, but your involvement in telling people, as I said before in the beginning of the conversation, has gave the incentive for the people that I asked to be on the show to be on the show. And we were able to converse and have, really wonderful conversations because you put in a good word for me. But I've noticed that as time has gone by, that I've changed a lot from when I started to where I'm at now, and a lot of it does have to do with the conversations I've had before, as I said. So, but I've also noticed too that with the various people that I've talked to, that I think like yourself, if I'm not invested, I'm not going to stick around too much to check up on what someone's doing. Every once in a while, I may, but there are a few people that come to mind that I can seriously say, check this person's work out. Like, Lewis is an example of that. You're an example of that. And then recently with Kyle Kawika Harris, the Adam Hanlon, Todd Jenkins, all these other people that I've been able to maintain a relationship with some way, shape, or form, that I truly believe what you guys are doing is so, so good um that I want more people to take notice of that, so that way you guys are granted more opportunities to really showcase what you guys can do more or less in the next level. So for me, that's very, very exciting to see what the potential is going to be in the future. That I, as a spectator, as a fan, am really excited for you guys to try these new things and have these great opportunities to be presented to you. And I want to be able to see that grow from here. So for me, uh, I said in the beginning, but I'm going to say it again. I genuinely want to say thank you so much for the time you've invested into me, sharing me these details. The behind the scenes stuff when you told me about the channel and One Range and the various other things you're working on as well too, things you've turned down as well. That I'm like, it's interesting, and I find it very it's a good thing, because if you're willing to share that with me in private, knowing that I will respect that, and then have someone else, in this case like Lewis, who shared with me a lot of things in private, and I'm like, this is like, that means a lot to me. And the value of the trust that I've been able to earn from you guys is something that I do not take for granted. And I've learned that more so now because of my experiences with everyone that I've been on the show we're with. So again, I want to say thank you so much for that, because your kindness is what I remember the most, but it's also the respect that I've been able to earn from you guys as well too, that also keeps me motivated and wanting to continue on with what I want to do, because there's a lot of things I've learned along the way that I realize are much more important, other than like, let's get more viewers. I mean, I do want more views. I'm not going to lie, but that's not the reason why I'm doing it, if that makes any sense. And that to me is much
Yeah, it
more
makes the same
important.
with us. Yeah, I mean, of course, more viewers creates more opportunities, and I get it. So they'll come, man. They'll come.
Yeah.
Stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep growing. Keep growing. Like that's
Yeah.
just all we can do. We take care of each other, and the viewers are going to get better and better. And if they don't
So,
like us, then that's cool too. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I mean, we know what we're doing and how we do it is for the right reasons and good intentions. So that's all we can have control over.
Yeah. But is there anything in closing that you want to say that at least, because by the time this gets uploaded, probably a few weeks from now, but is there anything that you would like for people to be on the lookout for, that you can highlight, that we can all just be anticipating? Because there's some projects that I know you're aware of, that I'm aware that they're going to be on, that's going to be coming down the line here. But is there anything you can say that you would like people to be on the lookout for, or people that maybe things you would like from them to revisit for yourself, to check out, that you would like people to look into for you?
Mm. Revisit would be interesting. I feel like anyone that hasn't seen him Lost in the Crowd of mine should watch it. I don't know, for some reason I just figure something about that. It's just a harder one to find. Just
Yeah.
because I like the character. If someone into that, it's not the most entertaining film, but it's intellectual. I don't know. I just something about that piece that I really enjoy. Uh, and then coming out, I mean, shoot, I don't know, Operation Blood Hunt,
Nah,
a
that
day
one I'm
later.
excited for.
Yeah, well, let's see. And then the Western. It's a Western. It's like a Western setting. It's like a drama in a Western setting. It's not going to be. There's some action, but it's not. That's not what this is. This isn't Tombstone. It's a. It's like a poetic revenge drama. I don't know. I'm excited about seeing that one though. Over the Red River, and I hear it soon. I hear that might be the soonest one, and we just shot it. Miles Cloesi is a machine. His whole team's a machine. Bailey Tony, um, she's one to look for sure. Bailey Tony, she's the lead in Over the Red River, and she's actually directing the piece that I'm producing coming up here. She's a special talent, so
Mm.
just keep a lookout for that stuff. I think you'll see. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, so in closing, for the cameras, I want to say to you, thank you again for being on the show. And as you already know, that anything that you're going to be working on, I'm going to do everything in my power to promote it and bring some awareness to it. And you know, I will. Apart from having these conversations, I always looking forward to see with what you're doing. Just a simple little catch up here and there is something that I always appreciate here, and I don't take for granted at all. So again, for the cameras, I want to say thank you again, and I guess until next time when we get pick up when we last left off. Cheers to you.
Cheers, brother.
All right. So